Hello, everyone. Welcome to BJJ and Brews. I'm your host, Noah John, joined by Chris Vu. Chris, how are you?
I'm getting there.
He's getting there. We're just going to be shooting the shit today. We just trained. Before we get started, go through the obligatory like, subscribe, and share.
Share.
As Chris
you
always
gotta
says.
share.
Gotta
right?
share the love. And we got to recover from that Julius bump. So I don't know. Do you remember the Stephen Colbert spike they always talked about? Do you remember Colbert had the Colbert Show after the Daily Show?
Not
back
really.
in the day? Okay, well, I'll talk about that in just a sec. But yeah, we're on social media, Instagram, Facebook, BJJ and Brews. You can shoot us an email to bjjandbrews@gmail.com. That's going to be your best bet for sponsorship opportunities. They actually got... I checked our spam, and we actually did have we had a
Pakistani gi creator.
We had an offer for
really?
social media influencing with promo codes
to what is the term? Not contribute.
Influencer.
No, it's like there's like an influencer that's like you see this thing under a tag under like under their name now on Instagram. Collaborate. There we go.
Anyway, hit us up. We're super responsive to that. We always love to hear your feedback, especially thing you like, stuff you don't like, whatever. But it's out there. And as always, you can listen to our podcast on all the different platforms. That includes Spotify, that includes iTunes, that includes Google Podcasts, that includes Stitcher, that includes all these other platforms that I've never heard of before, but we're all deployed there. We're there. So wherever they are, just search BJJ and Brews, and if you subscribe, that really does help us with our numbers and statistics and all that.
And leave a little 5-star.
Oh, and leave a 5-star, of course. Leave a 5-star.
I mean, like
yeah, absolutely. So enough shilling. Chris, how's your back?
Oh my god, dude.
Wait a minute. I know I have the best thing for your back. Hang on.
Oh yeah. So I have a concern about that actually. So my back is better. It's seen better days. This goes back to many things that we've chatted about. The idea of you should never be injured in training, right?
Yes.
I definitely injured myself, not in jiu-jitsu training, but strength and conditioning of all things.
Always non-jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. So Tuesday, so like last Friday, I was working out. It's usually my day off, so it's my home time. You know, Stacey and I were doing our workout swap, and I happened to snap a photo of my workout for the day, which was not deadlift day. Paul happened to chime in, not a lot of weight in that bar. Don't do those like pussy Noah weights or something.
Oh, yeah. Well, I replied with like a screenshot of like 5-pound pink dumbbells. Yeah. I was like, this is what I limit myself to. You know what?
It's like I've been on my my deload for deadlifts for a little bit.
That's what you mentioned, because I think I was present when this happened, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You were definitely present. It's like
because it never happened. So I was there when you were deadlifting.
Yeah.
And you were like, I was like, damn, he's putting a lot of weight on. And you were counting it up 3 different ways. You're like, I can't add this up. But you're like, how many pounds is this? Blah, blah, blah. And
it was, yeah. So,
but I guess it must have tightened up when you got back.
It was weird because like
you never felt anything.
I felt something. So
and you kept quiet.
That's the problem, right? Like so I was I'm doing 5x5, and it was like literally my last set. And it's like I felt pretty good like leading up to that, and I've been increasing weight and pyramiding up and stuff, and Paul was giving me shit because I had like 220 on the bar, which is like normally my warm up weight. And then so I was like, I'll fucking show Paul. And I do my deadlifts, and like I'm usually a pretty good form guy. I mean, like you've observed me lifting before. I try to maintain good form.
You have better form than the app.
Oh yeah, exactly. Like whether it's
you have a kettlebell app, and you're like, this form's atrocious.
This is garbage. It's like Jillian Michaels here. Hashtag Jillian Michaels sucks at kettlebell.com. And like I felt a minor, I don't know what it was, like a little twing in my back on that last set, or my last rep of my last set. And I finished. It was literally the last rep, man. It was terrible. And I probably should just called it right there and just dumped the bar and just went about my business. But I ground through it because it didn't feel that bad at the moment. But then I did my kettlebell workout after that, and like during my bent rows with even just a little 35 pounds just to do a high rep workout, like I kind of felt a little sharpness in my lower my right lower lumbar, I guess. So Wednesday was okay, but delayed onset muscle soreness always sets in 2 days after, right? So Connor woke up at like 1 a.m. on the Thursday morning, and I tried to jump out of bed to get him, and I literally couldn't get out of bed. Like, I couldn't move. My back had locked up completely. And so I texted my boss, and I was like, I can't make it into work. I can't get out of bed. So I had to take a day off of work, which sucked.
So you're not Bruce Willis and Unbreakable.
No, definitely not. Yeah. Like load on paint cans and stuff for the... No, none of that. I went to work on Friday, and I only made it through a half day. And I was actually standing most of the day just to keep my back
I feel
tight.
like sitting in the chair would be bad.
I actually have a standing desk and a leaning chair.
Attaboy.
So like even that was like I made through like half the day, and I was like I finished up what I had to do, and I went home because my back was tight. Sitting in my car was terrible. So that was super, super bad because I drive a stick shift for one thing. So like I have to keep both feet engaged. In addition with, like, I've got my fucking car seat in the back, so I have to actually lean my car seat or my seat forward a little bit.
Oh, wow. So
I'm, like, sitting, like, completely upright. It was, like, the worst experience of my, like, past couple days. I can't remember the last time I've experienced a debilitating injury like this, which sucks. So it's better today. I wanted to teach class. I really couldn't. I just did a couple drills with, and by drills I mean, like, reps. With Mark and Amanda just to see how it felt, and I couldn't even do the single leg to fall back to Ashi, like because I can't round my spine right now.
So you can't round your spine?
I can't round my spine. Yeah,
that's interesting. When I hurt my back, and I'm still not 100%, but I hurt my back recently. Same shit. Doing a deadlift.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Lower left lumbar.
And so here is Stan talking about. There's no evidence of like rounding your back being bad for deadlifts. I mean, like, how are we twinging our back out, right?
Well, it's just going too heavy too early. Like, that was really... I just went too heavy. Like, I've been on a very good protocol of saying my primary exercise is jiu-jitsu. I'm not lifting to exhaustion. I'm not overloading. Don't overload like you used to because you want to have energy to train. So... you feel good, and inevitably you get a little overconfident, and you push a little too much weight, and you just go a little too high, a little too quickly, and I just felt something go in my... I felt a boing.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Oh, so we probably suffered from the same... How long?
Except I'm on the left and you're on the right.
I'm on the right,
But what's interesting is curving my back actually provided relief for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't roll my back at all.
Standing straight is what is like awkward. So going... like if I were to do... what do you call it? When you...
what's it? The cat stretch or whatever it is?
Yeah, the inverted... No, but when you kind of use that thing over it, when you drape your body over this...
when you hollow?
What's it called? It's like a lower back extensions. There we go.
Okay, yeah.
And then you, instead of going to parallel, you go fully, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah. How long ago was that?
3 weeks ago.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Were you out? Like I'm.
Well, remember I went to Colorado, so I had the benefit.
But you were hiking.
That was fine. The hiking was fine. Standing up and walking.
Okay.
It's just if I'm sitting for a prolonged period of time, then it causes me to have that old man. Like I get up and I have that old man walk. Or I have the
like
Paul Rodriguez walk. Yeah. I really was walking like that.
And that's how I felt. Like just like over, sort of like extending my spine.
Your
like,
butt sticking out.
That's the only, like what is it, lordosis? Is it when your butt's sticking out? Like,
yeah.
Like having to like overextend my spine in order to feel any sort of comfort.
So live and learn.
Yeah. Like
so then when I was doing deadlifts next to you, I just had 145 on each side. I was going 10.
Yeah.
It's ego wise, it sucks because I know like the numbers I was lifting before, but I'm a much different person. If that person that was lifting higher weight was doing jiu-jitsu, I would be destroyed. Like my cardio would be shit. My flexibility was shit. I felt like I lumbered back then.
Oh, really?
But goddamn, I could pull that weight and I was throwing it out.
So that's the thing though, right? Like because like I've been doing 5x5 for a couple months now. Deloaded and stuff.
That's your protocol.
That's my protocol. I use that word a lot, don't I?
My protocol.
But I think I do 5x5. You know, I try to be pragmatic about lifting. I mean, I lower with a very slow eccentric. Like, it's been something I've done since weightlifting in high school. Like, you know, because you have to, like, lower the weight to your chest, wait for the call to press, you know.
When I did that bench press competition I talked about a few episodes ago that fucked up my shoulder probably eventually.
Yeah.
It was that. Where I was like benching, and then when I came to the competition, like, yeah, you have to hold it for like a second.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? I'm used to bouncing that shit.
I mean, like, that's where, like, Paul gives me shit about it because, like, you know, he's like, you know, there's been no studies that show, like, a slow eccentric on deadlifts provides, like, any additional benefit. Maybe there's something to that now, like, because I lift with, like, a 1-3 protocol. Like, I lift with a rate of 1, but I lower at the rate of, like, 2 to 3. It's, you know.
I think what I also realized, what also messed up my back is when I've deadlifted, I've never been a traditional deadlifter when I start to go heavy. I'm a sumo deadlifter. And I think that for me, at least, maybe it's just because I like the way that feels. I feel like I feel I have a better posture when I do that because I'm not bending over as much. I'm dropping my butt more, and my back is more upright. So I'm still engaging my back, and I definitely feel it in my back, but I don't feel like I'm risking the curvature of my back so much at the lower lumbar area.
And that's terrible too. I mean, I was using a fucking trap bar.
Yeah.
which my math was like way off on that. We actually need to go weigh that thing.
You're like, how much does this weigh? I don't know.
I was like, I think it might be 300. I think it might be 310. I don't know. But it was the last rep of the last set, which sucked. So that's put me out of commission for the past couple days, which is why I missed on Thursday, and it's that annoyed me a little bit. So I had to make it in today regardless.
Yeah, well,
whether I was on the mat and actually doing it.
It was good to have you on the mat.
Yeah.
And we've definitely been trying to have, or Paul, I know, has been trying to emphasize the idea of having more people observing, supervising.
There's something to that. Because he can't be everywhere, right?
Exactly. And I'm happy if I get enlisted to do that, I'm happy to do it because I almost feel like in a way it's as beneficial, if not more beneficial for me to be in that role in a fundamentals class because now I get to look at things from a different perspective.
Yeah.
And I get a deeper understanding of doing it, you know. So I'm very appreciative and enjoy that whenever I have an opportunity to do that. Plus, I don't have to do the warm-up again, so that's always fun.
It was a pretty killer warm-up, too, wasn't it? Like, everyone was giving me shit about that for some reason. Is that like not a... Is that not a normal warm-up for fundamentals class?
No, that was a normal warm-up.
It was?
Yeah.
Why was Rick giving me shit about it?
I don't know. Because I guess they don't know how to forward shrimp. I don't know.
I guess not, man. Yeah, you know, it's like, you know what's funny is like we all have like certain things that we do during a warm-up and
our idiosyncrasies.
Yeah, and I guess like I'm the only one who does a forward shrimp. Mark does his little. No, like,
Mark will do all like 4 versions of a shrimp. He'll do 4 normal shrimp, coming up and butt scooting shrimp, forward shrimp, side shrimp, both ways. So and by that point, everyone is
like they're shrimped out.
Yeah, they're shrimped out.
They're fucking Bubba Gumped. Like like just like what? Okay, so what are your thoughts on? Because we've discussed this a handful of times. You've seen the sort of like little sheet that Paul gave us about like the idea of like what a proper warm up should be and that sort of thing. And so when is a student supposed to learn these basic movements? If a warm up shouldn't require too much technical instruction, when is the person supposed to learn these sort of like calisthenics?
So me personally, I prefer, in my perfect world, I would say, hey, the person has already gotten there 10 minutes to 15 minutes early. They've done what they need to do for their bodies to get loose. And then when they walk on the mat, we're doing movement flows to get loose. That's me.
Okay. I think that's you as a more advanced intermediate student now. So
yes, and I also played athletics all my life, so I've developed that. I believe in fundamentals. People need to be. You have to assume that the student needs to be taught how to warm up for jiu-jitsu. So then, hopefully, they can do those movements on their own in order to get their bodies ready. Because I think everyone needs to learn what their body needs. So maybe they have tight hips. So I find, for example, I need to stretch my groin. Okay.
Interesting. Have you pulled your groin?
I've pulled my groin. I've had minor. That's the injury that happens to me most frequently, that I would consider quasi-serious.
Really?
When I train. I get a mild groin pull, and
that's not good.
And that happens. No, it doesn't last. I mean, it's nagging and stuff, but it's not too bad. But what ends up happening is it's the result of not warming up. It's a result of not doing a strengthening exercise that I do weekly, and then most importantly, what ends up happening is, if let's say I'm not stretching too much, and I'm either doing, so I remember vividly, I did a scissor sweep on Ryan Wilkerson when I wasn't warmed up.
Oh my God.
Motion, that I tweaked it. I've also had people knee slice me hard when I was cold, and that stretching of my groin with their shin going across it has messed with it. So I know from my body that that's something I need to just, and not baby, like if I take care of it, I'm fine. But if I don't take care of it, that's a higher risk area for injury for me. But that comes from years of knowing your body.
Yeah.
And so people have to develop their body awareness.
How long do you think that takes?
Have I what?
How long do you think that takes?
Good question. I don't know.
You're getting a light beer, by the way.
I really don't know. But it's it depends, man. Like, I'm also into this stuff too.
Did you say you're religious?
No, I said I'm into this stuff.
Oh, you're into this stuff. Okay,
I'm into this stuff.
I was like, what the hell?
I think in the case of a fundamentals class, they need to be shown the movements. They need to be shown how to stretch different parts of their body, and then they need to figure out.
There are so many different movements to jiu-jitsu, right? So, like, I was just thinking about this, right? Let's relate this to weightlifting. So there are 4 sort of like basic movements for weightlifting, right? There's a pressing, a pulling, whether it's horizontal or vertical plane, a squat, and a hinge, right? Like that's it for weightlifting. Anything else beyond that is just like variations and extrapolations of those movements. What are the basic movements of? You want to trade? You want my 7%? Have the rest of my 7%. It's the same amount. I don't care. Have that. That's gonna taste like puke, just so you know. I'll drink this Keystone Light. That's fine.
There we go. Keystone in jiu-jitsu.
I don't like bitter beer face, man.
I will say this. I believe, and I've been talking to Paul about this, and maybe in the future this will be implemented in the gym, but adding an additional class to our schedule that accommodates brand new students.
I think that's super necessary, right? Like,
and that way it would address one of the things it would address is explicitly what you're talking about, which is in a fundamentals class, you can shout out a reasonable number of warm-up commands, and they know what they are.
Shouldn't know, right? So, like, that's the system of, like, 10th Planet, Rand. Have you seen the 10th Planet warm-up system?
Oh, I've seen those flows. I've seen the flows.
Oh my God! It's like, I don't think you and I could do that. They're basically like, you've seen the Roy Dean testing.
Oh,
right?
yes, absolutely.
Like Peter's Crucible, right? Like these like fucking 20 sequence movements. Those are their warm-ups, dude.
I think and I think good. There's some merit in that.
Yeah, sure.
But I think there's a difference between doing movement flows to warm up and actual exercise that are specifically, they're not jiu-jitsu related. They're just
people need to learn how to forward trip.
Well, I think we should do more in fundamentals. We should do more just basic stretching. Like you'd almost see like a baseball team. Like we should do lunge and twist. We should do. Oh,
you want to get all like super.
Yeah, get everyone's like joints and ligaments all warmed up and the mobility. Then do the jiu-jitsu movements like hip escapes and shrimps and that sort of thing. Regardless, I think those things, when covered in a 101
like a
class,
fundamental.
Yeah, the intro class, the basics of jiu-jitsu.
So I used to dog it, but maybe you're saying, because my buddy back in the day when I was like a blue belt, no, I drank like 3/4 of that, and she could finish the rest of it.
We have a small audience here, so that's we're interacting with our audience.
But so like
they're judging us.
Traditional jiu-jitsu, right? Like you want to think back to My buddy joined a Pablo Popovich school
Yeah.
down in South Florida. And he completely, like, you join, it doesn't matter what belt you are. You have to take basically 6 months, I think. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe it's not 6 months. I'm over-exaggerating. I'm also drunk.
Popovich is good, man. I've heard.
No,
like,
I know. He's a Abu
he's
Dhabi
badass, man.
Abu Dhabi, like, middleweight champion. You teach...
Like, he's beaten Marcelo.
Has he?
I believe he has.
Man, you do study this.
I've
like,
heard Paul mention this guy. Like,
yeah. So he's in like Dania Beach or something, right down in South, like Fort Lauderdale area. He my buddy joined his gym back in the day after we all graduated from college, and like we're all trying to still fight each other and shit. And he joined a jiu-jitsu gym, and he joined Popovich's school. Mind you, this dude wrestled for 4 years in high school. You know, super athletic, lift weights every day, like portions his meals out and all that stuff. Still had to take like a month or two or whatever the case is, like a mandatory, like you take this fundamental movements class and that's it. Can't train.
How did he feel about that? Because Paul and I have had discussions where it's like, well,
he was
maybe
insulted.
Yeah, okay, but did he stick with it?
Yes.
Do you think?
No. He did not stick with it. I take it back. He actually left and joined a straight blast gym, which he loved.
So, and I think that's where the exception, Paul's already saying, if the person has prior grappling experience, you throw them into fundamentals, or you accelerate them through the lessons, because not all the lessons are movements. Some of the lessons are, this is close guard, this is side control, this is mount.
When do you think the theory needs to begin then?
I'm sorry?
When do you think the theory needs to begin?
Theory?
Yeah, so like, for example, today, like, I'm injured, right? So I was walking around in fundamentals and I was trying to help out the white belts. And I'm not sure where the breakdown is, where I just need to lay off of my like theory of jiu-jitsu and just like work on the technique and hand explain it later.
I think people as white belts, it's probably hard for most people to connect the dots early on. They should just focus on the technique, and then as they develop over months and years, they'll start to see how it falls into the lattice of jiu-jitsu and understand how jiu-jitsu works. But I don't think telling a person we're doing a hook sweep, and apart from explaining why it works, you don't need to necessarily go in beyond that.
Really? You don't think
I think because I think it's going to overwhelm. I think the beginner is just trying to do the technique and learn how to control and move their body. Keenan, okay. I hate to reference another podcast to bring it in here, but the most recent Matt Burn that I listened to with Cornelius and Josh, Keenan brought up a point that you and I can identify with people we know, which is they were talking about what's the deal with men going with women. Okay.
That's the second time they've addressed that. I think,
but
right?
They attacked it from a different angle. And what Keenan brought up is, apart from that, there are people that don't understand body mechanics. They don't understand their bodies. They don't understand if I shift my weight and I outweigh the person by 80 pounds, this will happen. They don't have much body awareness. And we know people that do very well in jiu-jitsu, but they don't have body awareness, which is what makes them dangerous.
Is it their own body awareness, or is it awareness of...
They don't understand how bodies work. They don't understand, they just don't understand the consequences. Like, imagine a leg reap.
Yeah.
Someone with body awareness will understand that if a reap's happening, the person being reaped, if you go with it, you're okay. You forget about the risk of being a foot locked or something, but just that movement and what it's doing to your knee.
Yeah.
This is how your knee has to bend. If you have awareness, it makes sense. If you don't have awareness, if you're doing it or you're receiving it, there's a higher risk of injury. So where does this learning of awareness come in? Well,
one would think it's in...
I'm hoping, there's going to be some people that are hopeless, I think. Unfortunately.
I think that's fair to say.
But I would think that most people, especially if that stuff is discussed, I think people will develop that over time through experience, and hopefully that experience is not like a punishing experience where they have a traumatic injury and then they're like, shit, shouldn't do that again,
I think it usually happens too, and this is where I think people who are used as ukes a lot
Yeah.
tend to teach better. Because when you feel it on yourself, you tend to be able to reproduce that on another person.
Yeah, it's weird how that works. I still don't understand how feeling something allows you to reproduce it.
It shouldn't work that way, right? Because you're not seeing the motion as a whole.
Correct.
But like it does. It definitely does. 100%, right?
I agree.
Because maybe it's like there's a certain amount of like empathy with that too. Like because you're like, okay, like he made me feel this, so you generally have a good idea of how to do that to make the other person feel that. You know. No, that's a crazy thing. I maybe there is something to just a purely movements class.
I think we could. I think we could always probably drill movements more.
Absolutely.
The problem is
with purpose, though.
But the problem is movements. Just like a drill heavy class, from a commercial point of view, does that sell?
Is that appealing?
Probably to a smaller segment, yes, but to the larger segment. But if
that's all they know, perhaps that's all. If that's what they're introduced to early on, then.
I remember when I did capoeira for a year. For the first week to 2 weeks.
Did you juru a lot?
Jinga?
Yeah. Oh no, juru is fucking silat, I think. Yeah,
I don't know. I'm not familiar with that term.
Yeah,
but
sorry.
They had me stand. Everyone was doing their thing, and the coach had me in front of the mirror doing the Jenga the entire class for I think 2 weeks.
Really?
Just to get that. And not that I got it in 2 weeks.
Is it Jenga?
I think it's a G.
A G?
Jenga.
A soft G, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
Jenga.
But and actually capoeira from a movement perspective is great.
Oh, it's probably better than. It's basically gymnastics, right?
Exactly. There's a lot of great movement dynamics, especially if you get into capoeira show is what my instructor called it, which is when you add more acrobatics to it.
Is that not fighting capoeira?
So they would. I don't remember the terms too well, but when capoeira was more considered a fighting kind of thing, the jingo was reduced. Like we were talking a lot smaller steps, and
right, yeah.
There were a lot of kicks. But it was definitely it was a great exposure. The people I trained with were awesome, and it was great exposure to Brazil and the martial art. That was 2008, 2009.
How long? So quite a bit before you started jiu-jitsu.
Yes.
Do you see any sort of like common denominators between culturally Brazilian capoeira and Brazilian jiu-jitsu?
Absolutely.
Really?
And it's Brazil. It's the Brazilian influence.
Of course, right?
Yeah. The Brazilian influence, I call it the endearing laissez-faire nature of it, where you don't have to start right on time and you probably go a little late. But that also
like the
depends
Latino
on the instructor.
time thing.
Yeah.
That's more like, yeah.
And I also got to understand what's probably not uniquely Brazilian, but just the nature of, what happens when people from two gyms interact with one another.
Oh, really? So that exists there too?
Oh, yeah.
Is it like... Okay.
What that would amount to is, let's say you have
Are there trade secrets though? Movement's movement though, right? Like
I don't know about that. I'm not in it. I wasn't in it long enough to know that. But all I can say is, what I'm talking about is situations where you would have a roda, which is you'd have a circle. They're playing the berimbau, and you have people from multiple schools participating. And the way it works. It actually, I'll tell you one thing, it taught me to be more assertive because there's no turns. It's not like next person in line jumps in. The way it is two people start, they enter, they start doing their thing. They start doing capoeira, and they're flowing there. And then somebody will come to the front, step in, insert themselves between the two people at the person they want to continue with, and the other person backs out. Okay.
Really? So it's like at the bar, like, hey, I'm ready for a drink.
Exactly. So in essence, imagine we would all sit in a circle and two people are rolling, and then one of us decides to go in, insert our hand, and slap bump the person we want to roll with, like interrupt them, slap bump, and then one person scoots out and we go in. But what's then happening is you can just stand there and watch, and no one's telling you to go in there. So at the beginning, when you feel like you don't have the skill, you're embarrassed, you're shy, whatever, you just stand there and the whole thing happens and you didn't get in. And a good instructor will probably nudge you to get in there, but a person who's not assertive is going to get in there maybe once, where someone who doesn't give a shit and is assertive is going to get in there 5, 6, 7 times. So that's the difference between coming to a training and rolling like 5 times and rolling once. Now, granted, the amount of time you're in there is going to range from 10 to 30 seconds, depending on how things are going and what people feel and all that stuff. But
we should do that for jiu-jitsu one day.
How cool is that?
Yeah, like
just get in there whenever you want. So as a result, it taught me assertiveness in a situation where I'm like, I'm the foreigner in a foreign country, and I was doing this in Spain. So I was in Spain.
Capoeira made its way to Spain.
Oh yeah, there are a lot of.
This must have been like this has got to be the product of Only the Strong.
Oh, a product of what?
Only the Strong.
It's just a lot of Brazilians are immigrating.
Sort of like Brazil to Portugal to Spain.
Yeah,
I'm guessing. Okay,
they're just getting out of there. So, in terms of besides that, so I was talking about is what happens when two schools get together. So you have a Roda that's like you've got people in a line or it's not a line, but they're in a circle. People are playing. You have people now from multiple schools. If people from different schools are in there and one person does not observe etiquette, what happens? The instructor from the other school comes in and embarrasses / beats the shit out of that person. And that's how shit happens. And what's funny is it deteriorates into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Does it really?
Yeah, they start grappling. They like slam, and now they're in someone's guard and they're grappling.
Really?
And they shoot a double like it turns into Jiu-Jitsu.
That's awesome. Why did Only Strong completely leave that part out? Because that's the more interesting part. Like I don't know.
I mean, they're not trying to grapple, but in fact, it's considered almost bad etiquette unless you really are comfortable with the person to touch.
Right.
And even if you're trying to do like a trip, you're supposed to like gently touch the person. But as a beginner, I was told you can't touch anybody.
Really?
And they can't touch you. And then as you get more comfortable, with the people like you can ooh, I was going to trip you there. Ooh, no one's like throwing a kick and touching. And, that's obviously...
That's bad etiquette.
Yeah, that's bad. But it's like stuff like trips. And then if people are kind of aggressive, like there are a couple guys that were... I won't call them what we would consider schizos, but they didn't give a shit. They would do scissor takedowns.
Really?
Scissor takedown. Yeah. And that interrupts the flow, and then everyone's like "Opa!" And then they kind of reset. They go to the beginning. They slap bump, and they go back to cartwheeling and doing the chinga.
That's really interesting. I mean, because
the big thing for me, music is such a big part of capoeira, and the music was never I tried to learn the songs like Paranaue, Paranaue,
which, by the way, is actually Paranue. All you gringos out there who think it's Bana, Bana, Neway. It's not that. Every gringo out there.
But the music's awesome, and as you're supposed to progress, at least in my group, because my instructor. Contra mestre batuque G.
Mestre, huh?
Contra mestre.
What does that even mean?
That's like one level below. Contra mestre.
Like counter master?
Yeah, he's the son of... The mestre is above that.
Okay.
He's a good singer.
Mestre.
He was a good singer and a good percussionist. He's a good musician. So everyone that I knew that was a higher belt, they knew how to sing.
I mean,
I was like
singing, or is it just chanting?
No, they would have their solos. Like they would be singing, we're doing and they would sing solos in there, and I'm like, fuck, I'm having a hard time with this.
So forgive my my ignorance of. So there's other songs other than Paranue?
Yeah,
really?
Yeah, it's really good. So, but. So we're getting interrupted. Jiu-Jitsu, Nick Paul story.
The Nick Paul stories are the ones we're most interested in. Embarrassing Nick Paul stories is what we're looking for.
So
pick up
I got a lot of. I'm very appreciative of that 1 year I did capoeira because I got exposed to what it's like to be in a martial arts community.
Sure.
Especially a Brazilian influenced one.
Still not a traditional martial arts community. Like, that's interesting too.
No, never did karate or anything.
Because it's not, and that's interesting about capoeira too, because like we always associate jiu-jitsu with the eastern side of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like things that come from karate and judo, and a systemized sort of like either scholastic, academic, or even militaristic approach to training martial arts. Whereas, like, capoeira is a completely, a Western martial art, right? Like,
well, do you know the history of capoeira, like the real basic history?
like, I know the romanticized version of the, like, they were slaves and they had this guys
Brazil,
fighting as dancing, and like, that's super romanticized, and I'm sure that was the case. But if that were also the case, and it was a super effective martial art, not to say that it's not, then shouldn't everybody be doing it as well? Like, shouldn't that cream have risen to the top in terms of, like, shouldn't that have beaten jiu-jitsu in Vale Tudo and whatnot, right? Like, or is it because it's so attribute-based, or was it not systemized well enough in terms of, like, organizing to be able to disseminate to other...
I'm not going to take a stance on how to categorize capoeira as a fighting system against other fighting systems like Muay Thai or Jiu-Jitsu. What I can tell you is I definitely, and it was common among everybody, which is this fighting or is this like choreographed ballet? And we all said that. And the way the people that explained it to me was, it's depending on how it's being done, and there are different styles of it. There's capoeira, regional capoeira. God, I can't even do it in Portuguese.
Regional?
Yeah. Regional. Capoeira regional. There's capoeira... what's the other one? There's a capoeira form where they do... The jinga is really weird and tight. And I'm forgetting the name, and they're going to kill me for not remembering this, so I apologize. There's another type of capoeira. And basically, to me, it's an art form that is... There's something unique about going in there and flowing with someone and almost challenging each other athletically and dynamically. When people that are good go at it in capoeira, it's like a tit for tat. Like, I'm throwing a kick and you are just barely ducking it and throwing your own kick. It's like how small can we shrink the margin of error? Yeah, how can we like shrink the margin of error and get in sync with what the other person is doing? So it's a flow thing. It's definitely a body movement thing. Is it the best combat system? I don't know. Probably.
I mean, honestly, it's like,
but it's really beautiful, and it's culturally
body development.
It's Brazil. Like,
sure.
That, and I think that to me is what is so special about it. But I can tell you that it never viscerally got me addicted to it like jiu-jitsu has.
Really?
What I
imagine the community of it is incredibly strong.
The what?
Right? The community aspect of it?
Yeah, but I was really into... I had a great core group of friends that I trained with, and I trained 3 days a week, and it was great, and I loved it, and I'm still friends with those people to this day, but that was like a moment in time that was really special. About like 8 to 9, like a year later, I had left because I came back to the States, and people had also gone their separate ways because of life.
Really?
And that, I called it like the golden era. It was like we had this gym. It's called Guzman el Bueno on the street, Guzman el Bueno in Madrid, and it was a small gym where this old like Spanish owner would let us train in this back area with mirrors, and he always had like this calendar of girls and like scantily clad women doing like bad workout poses that were not workout poses, but more like showing off their attribute poses. And in fact, we took a picture of that, and that was like the name of our Facebook group or our WhatsApp group.
Awesome.
We used that, the Guzman el Bueno group. And One of those guys, Antonio, that we called No, he is now like a massive CrossFitter. He's
really?
like he's probably the biggest, or if not one of the biggest, CrossFit guys in Spain.
Really?
Everybody that gets certified in Spain has come through him. So he was one of the earliest adopters of it. He's jacked. He's an athletic freak. He did Krav Maga. He's done karate. He can do the Jean-Claude Van Damme kick like to the ceiling.
Right.
He's just a freak, and he's tried everything. But
so
now
he
he's
found the thing that probably has a stronger community. Or
I honestly, I never talked to him about what got him into it. I just know that's what he does, and it's like he's isolated himself now in that community. Like that's what he does day in and day out.
isolate himself from Capoeira. Like,
he no longer does Capoeira.
CrossFit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And to the point where it's like our friends are like, you want to hang out? It's like, no, I'm in the box. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. Like,
yeah, I'm wadding.
So that's. I mean, I understand that's life. People go their separate ways. But the Capoeira thing was definitely more about the people than the art. And with Jiu-Jitsu, it's as much like if everyone here left and this gym just ceased to exist, I would find another place to train.
Right.
Whereas in that case,
and you would also probably still stay in contact with the people you trained with.
Well, I stay in touch with the people I train with, but not everyone trains anymore.
That's true. Yeah.
Whereas I think in Jiu-Jitsu, at least the people I know, we would all go separate ways, but we'd hopefully still be training. Like JB's still training in Seattle. John,
is that where he is now?
You know, so that I think is kind of the difference there. So we'll see.
I hope he's going to find a good community. Because Boston Northeast is growing. John's going to find a good...
I hope so.
Michelle found a new tribe, which is good. It's funny because, like, I still think that she's up there, but, like, she's not posting about, like, all these new friends she's making, you know?
Michelle?
Yeah.
I don't know. But Michelle's never talked about friends too much down here with social media. She showed training. I know
she
she's
sure
training.
is. I mean, she'll post memories about like good times she had down here and stuff. So
yeah,
we miss
we're
her
the
too.
shit, man. We're awesome.
I mean, like, what's that? Did you see like Amanda's? Recently talked to Michelle.
Yeah.
She'll find them. She'll fucking heel hooks a couple people.
She already did. Like I told you she got the no from like you can't do that. It's not BJJF legal.
So I mean, like that's an interesting thing, right? Like does she go the Wagyu finger? That she's beef. Does she go somewhere else then?
No.
So like, what do you do in that case, right? Like, do you?
I think she's.
Do you modify your game at that point? Do you start if you were to move somewhere else? You get a good feel from a gym, but they're just not what you want to do. Do you leave?
You have two options. You either say, if it's strictly forbidden in all scenarios there, that you can't do stuff that you enjoy doing, which I don't think is the case in Michelle's case because they have a leg lock.
It just happened to be
in that particular gi class. I think they were competition focused with an IBJJF rule set, so they're like, don't do things, especially at blue belt,
right.
that aren't within the rule set.
I mean, yeah, that's a
and
lot.
it's also like, how long has she been at the gym? So they're like, who is this person? And she's fucking inside heel hooking people, or she's toe holding people, So, which I don't care, as long as it's not done with malice, like Eric does.
That's exactly.
You know what I mean?
Is his malice?
Well, it's not malice. It's just, no. I'll tell you this.
He's smiling the entire time.
You know what he said though? He's like, when I go, I'm trying to win. He told me that. So he admits when he rolls, he's trying to win. So in that respect, it's not malice, but it's aggressive. It's wrenching.
Competitive.
It's aggressive wrenching.
Yeah.
And I'm like, come on, bro.
Like.
Next time I'm just going to I try to grab his collar and his beard's so big. Like I know people talk about I don't want to grab my hair and because I have long hair.
Yeah.
But I try to grab his collar from the front and his beard's blocking it. And I'm like trying to navigate around that big ass beard.
Okay.
And now I'm at a point I'm like, fuck this. I'm just going to fucking grab a big hold of his Santa Claus beard.
It's sort of, we can extend upon the boob punching thing with this too, right? Because when I grapple with somebody who has longer hair or I grapple somebody who has a beard or chest hair or something, right? I make a conscious effort to not. I will modify my strategy and my techniques at that given moment to avoid potentially wrenching their hair or their face.
Dude, next time I roll with you, I'm taking my hairband out. I'm letting the hair down.
No,
I'm gonna grow a big beard.
Literally.
You're not gonna be able to choke me. My hair's gonna be
at that point, I'm only grabbing sleeves, right? So what's the accepted thing with that? Yeah, I mean, you hear me and Tommy roll. Like, we're apologizing more than we're actually trying to attack people. What's the accepted thing?
Well, I tell people...
If it happens, it happens.
I tell people that's my problem, not yours. Like, if my hair's pinned under your arm and it's going to rip out, that's my problem, not yours. I chose to have
hair
like...
Is it really?
Absolutely. I chose to have my hair long and do jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, but I should also still be a considered training partner.
Yeah, but this is a vanity thing. Like, it's not the end of the world if a little hair comes out. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's a fucking pain thing, though. I mean, like, it still sucks.
Nah.
I mean, I haven't had long hair in years, so I can't speak for it.
As long as you're not grabbing my hair and using it as a grip, like you're grabbing the back of my hair.
Yeah, like
just
chemo, UFC 3.
Like Valley Tudo, like, you better have a shaved head or else someone's just going to grab your hair, and gouge your eyes out. And fish hook them,
I mean, I still apologize, and then I'll readjust my fingers. I'll pause for a minute.
I mean, it shouldn't. At the same time, we really shouldn't be going that hard where your timing is so critical that you have to go through my hair anyway.
I mean,
you know what I mean? Like,
we shouldn't be.
Yeah, it's like
people.
If we're going super fast, then yeah, this is going to happen. If we're flowing more, then it's not going to happen. So it's one of those things. But my question for you, shifting gears slightly, but I wanted to bring this up, is because you've been doing this a lot longer than I have. I'm at a point right now where I feel as though I'm going in a bunch of different directions with techniques.
Sure.
Nothing's bad, but I feel like when I go with higher level guys, I'm almost kind of, I wouldn't say paralyzed, but I'm not committing to doing one specific thing, and I end up getting overwhelmed because those guys are more decisive in what they do. Think about playing guard. I'm like, I want to play a little lapel guard. Maybe I want to play single X. Maybe I'm going to play X. Maybe I'm going to do this. All this stuff's in my mind. I'm not saying like I'm going to go to this guard and go to this and try to sweep like this. I'm not playing that. I'm just kind of like, let me mess around with stuff.
Yeah.
But when I roll with higher level guys, which happens as you get better, you end up getting paired up with better people. They're passing with more, as you like to say, purpose. So what I'm wondering is, being a guard player in particular, did you have moments where you felt like you didn't know which way to go in terms of giving yourself objectives, and how did you kind of cope with developing your guard?
I still feel that way, man. Like, honestly, like, as silly as it sounds, I still feel that way. But I also have to think back to something JB and I had a pretty lengthy conversation about, is like the idea of trying to impose a game produces expectations. And he offered advice to me and gave me feedback of like what roles he and I were excellent and what roles he felt like I was struggling, right? And every single one that he said, he's like, man, like, you were hard on this and blah, 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 and you did really well there and blah, blah. I mean, he's still going to beat the hell out of everybody basically in the gym except for Paul and a handful of other people. It was always the ones where, they were always the ones where I truly tried to live in the moment and not try to force things and grabbed whatever opportunities are available. And not to get super philosophical about things, but like he and I both are, we're sort of like traditional martial artists, and we try to like nut hug Bruce Lee a little bit. And that's one of those things is like,
he has nunchucks.
What's that?
He had nunchucks.
He did have nunchucks.
He would do nunchuck drills here.
Yes, he did. I mean, and even like upside down hanging off of the top of the pull-up bar.
That's true.
Like
he had the gravity boots.
The gravity boots with like a weighted vest on, of all things. He always said like the ones where I did the best were the ones where thinking back, were the ones where I just tried to grab what was available in front of me at that very moment. I mean, like, not to quote Matt Thornton, but I'm going to anyway. Being an SPG guy who is an extension of JKD, isn't that the idea of martial arts, is just truly living in the moment, right? And that's, if you see an opportunity, seize it and grab it and take it, right? And that's all you can do, is live in the moment. Or is jiu-jitsu, the beauty of jiu-jitsu, trying to become so familiar with so many systems that you always have an available tit for tat? right? Like, is that it? Is it technique collection, or is it a deeper understanding of jiu-jitsu to be able to respond appropriately at any given second, at any given situation? And that's the big thing, right? Like, to separate the idea of living in the moment versus becoming this mechanical man, as Bruce Lee likes to say, right? Like, at one point you're living in pure chaos, and the other point, if you're only depending on your systems available to you, then you become this robot, right? Like, where's the balance? Where do you, like, what is the ultimate in learning? What is the ultimate in performance? And maybe that's, I tend to be a more systems-based person, right? So I tend to get paralyzed by analysis. But, I mean, JB said himself, who's easily one of the best performers at the gym, when I did the best was when I wasn't thinking and I was just feeling and taking.
So I have a couple of observations about that. One, I think what you're saying is a little more applicable when rolling with JB because JB himself rolls that way.
Yes.
Try doing that with Kali, or Ryan Wilkerson, people that are committed to doing one thing.
Sure.
Or anybody, and I'm not saying when doing one thing, that's not a slight at all. That's like, there's a purpose. So, or Nick Paul, like I spent the entire time trying to pass Nick Paul's half guard. That's most of the time you roll with Nick Paul. You're trying to pass his half guard. How dynamic can you get if you're getting the same look? So JB is a guy who he's advocating an approach, but he also practices it. And if you have two people that are taking what's being given to them, you're going to get rolls that are very dynamic and very flowy and very open. But if you go with people that's like, I'm not going to let you pass my half guard. I'm going to go to half guard, and I'm not going to let you pass.
So isn't it the onus on the person who has to respond to that person's system then?
Yes, but what I'm saying is in that case...
But they're so good at it.
In that case, how can you... You're going to have to apply what you know about passing half guard. Like, right. you're being funneled. Like, JB, to my recollection, did not funnel as much. He was
very good at
But if you deal with someone who funnels, well, you're getting funneled. So now you have to deal with that. So I think that already. I think I'm not disagreeing. I actually agree with what JB said and what you're saying. But I do think it's even more noticeable when both people are of that mindset. I remember a role I had with Chihuahua towards the end before he left to go to New York, and it was awesome because none of us were playing too much tight pressure. And he moves a lot, and I was trying to keep up with him. So we were moving a lot, and we were rolling. We were doing back takes. It was a fun roll. There was no...
Isn't that the essence of jiu-jitsu then?
Not necessarily. The essence of jiu-jitsu could be what Paul's been doing to me lately.
And smashing the fuck out of you?
Getting a shoulder in my face, getting a cross face, getting heavy, pinning my shoulders, and not letting me do anything. And slowly advance, and just...
That's just Paul's game though, right? Like, and that's where so I mean, and that's the approach that we have to take a look at when it comes to jiu-jitsu, because, and not to say that you're not as skilled as like a JB, which you and I cannot speak for that. Like, we're not as skilled as JB, right? Like, I think in the instance of JB approaching somebody who's trying to do with purpose like Paul, JB could potentially force different looks. Right? Like, because there's no movement in jiu-jitsu that's so efficient that it's not open to some sort of a counter. Right?
Correct.
I mean, like, there's got to be something, right? So it's just a matter of finding or creating the opportunity. In this case, Paul is so good at honestly shutting down anything and everything that we could try to do. We just haven't had the mat time and haven't had the experimentation and the infinite amount of monkeys to be able to figure out what that counter is at the given moment to counter that immediate amount of pressure, right? Like, I mean, I'm watching Paul do this half guard stuff today, and I realize, like, man, like, what he's addressing right now in terms of like getting that underhook and shooting your legs through and getting your hook in from the bottom position. And I realized, like, I'm only half-assed doing the response that Paul is saying a good person would do, right? So now, because it is a big part of my game, is that butterfly half. I get to that butterfly half no problem and can, in general, aside from a certain few people, regain my butterfly guard. Now I know that he's opened it up so that I can start engaging that more and really initiating that. Because I just haven't had enough time to play in that particular position, right? But let's extrapolate that to like every position. And just to be able to feel every angle and to be able to feel every pressure, right? To alleviate a pressure, to create an angle, to create an opening, et cetera, et cetera. Where's the art come in? Like, to separate, and not to go back to the conservatism of jiu-jitsu, right? Like, where's the true jiu-jitsu in that? You just said it yourself. You know, Paul's performing excellent jiu-jitsu by smashing you and blah, 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 that's good too. Right? Like, that's not to say that, like, the flowing, crazy, like, scramble of, like, a cloud of dust with arms and legs flying out, like you and Chihuahua are doing, is bad jiu-jitsu.
No, but for me, it's from a development point of view, I'm trying to optimize my growth. So
sure.
I'm at a situation where it appears as though I need to commit to something in order to further develop it against good resisting opponents.
Right.
But the ultimate goal would be identify what's the optimal system to apply given what the opponent's giving you. Meaning, let's say I'm practicing single leg X. Okay, well, I'm going to enter De La Riva and try and get an entry into single leg X. But maybe that person is... If the person especially knows I'm trying to do that, then they're going to do something where it's less ideal, but they're giving me an entry into something else. But if I'm just focused on funneling into single leg X, I'm going to try and be overcoming a much... It's not the path of least resistance. Right. I feel like jiu-jitsu could be characterized as... Beautiful jiu-jitsu could be characterized as taking the path of least resistance at all times. Being able to see, like, oh, I'm in De La Riva, but oh my God, that lapel is dangling now. I can grab the lapel and now enter a lapel guard scenario, right. You know? As opposed to the lapel is tightly, it's like in his belt, and I'm going to reach for it. I'm going to fumble with it. The guy's going to be like, oh my God, he's going for my lapel, and I don't have any frame because I'm...
That's inefficiency, you know what I mean? Right? Like, that's counter to jiu-jitsu.
Well, but the thing is, I need to get better at stuff. Like, me just sitting there when I need to develop all the systems first before I'm able to pick them at will. And that's kind of my thing.
Well, that's just time then. That's purely time at that point, right? Like,
but is the quicker way to develop is to commit myself to a system and work that system live and just say, like, okay, I know such and such entries into single leg X. And that's what I've honestly been considering. Just funnel a single leg X like no other. I know a fair amount of entries into that position. Just kind of work it. Even if it means like it's obvious, I'm telegraphing it, they're going to start defending that, and I don't bother like, let me go to a butterfly sweep or let me go to a De La Riva sweep, you know?
Doesn't that hamper your jiu-jitsu development as a whole? Because all you're worried about is just that single leg X.
But if you get better at that, then you can move. I don't know. That's my question for you.
I don't know. I mean, like, it depends on what your goals are, right? Like,
my goal is to optimize my improvement.
So how do you... Okay, so I'm going to use our little gaming analogies here, right? Like, we've got our barbarian.
Yeah.
You know, you want to just... Do you load into strength, or do you bring up intelligence, dexterity, et cetera, et cetera?
I figure out what the best in item slots are, or the best in slot items are.
Okay, that's a good point.
And then figure out what the requirements are in terms of strength, agility.
So that's the thing, right? Like, is jiu-jitsu about? And this we may have gone full circle. End of podcast at this point. Is jiu-jitsu about only strengthening your strengths and sharpening that, or is it about bringing up your weaknesses also? Or is it bringing up your strengths, or bringing up your weaknesses to be able to funnel to your strengths? Or is it, like, because everybody's got their own game and that sort of thing.
Yeah, right? I understand what you're saying. I think the answer depends entirely on the person. I think the person has to be, and I think if we really want to go out to philosophy, I think it kind of has to do with my philosophy on life. It's like I believe that a person's goal should be to be the best version of themselves. Doesn't necessarily need to be the best version of something according to some criteria, but the best version of them. And I think the same thing is with jiu-jitsu. You told me early on, jiu-jitsu is a manifestation of a person's personality. So if a person wants to be the next Adolfo Rivera, then do a few things really, really well, better than anyone else, and dominate with those strengths. If you're someone that enjoys breath, even though you're not going to have the best knee cut in the world potentially, or the best half guard pass in the world, but guess what? You can play lapel, you can play spider, you can play anything, and it's fun, and you can whatever's making you happy and fulfilled as a practitioner of jiu-jitsu really is what's important. So for me right now, there's a competitive side of me that's in conflict with. There's really, the ego is in conflict with my desire to learn all the techniques under the sun.
Sure.
Right? I'm practicing lapel guard. I'm spending probably a little too much time looking at different source of information, and I've tried to actually recently.
That's just, if that brings you happiness.
Exactly. And JB even said, like, dude, once you're a blue belt, you just fucking learn on the internet, like.
Exactly.
That's what he said, and I was like, that's a bit extreme, And I've definitely tried to reprioritize what Paul's showing as gospel, and then throw in other stuff from there. But definitely the lapel guard stuff that I dick around with is definitely, I think, a great example. The leg lock stuff. Honestly, I don't really leg lock now when I roll unless someone goes for it on me, and then I say, so we're doing leg locks now? Because honestly, I think they're awesome, but I'm more interested in trying other stuff. Kind of like what Tommy said, like you hit a move 5. I'm not saying I was hitting a move 5 times and getting bored. It's not that, but I want to learn a breadth of technique, so I'm doing a bunch of stuff. But that's in conflict with the ego, which is I always want to be performing well in my roles against whoever I go with. Because my ego and my competitiveness says I don't care who I'm going with, I can have a good showing, Yeah, I can.
But what dictates a good showing? Like what is the
a good showing means? It depends who you're going with. What you're and how those roles go with. But I think you just know if you're like, oh fuck, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like that was shitty, or that was fun, or I threatened that person. Whenever I can get a giggle out of Paul, that's a good role, because
that means he's probably whooping your ass, or
there's something interesting going on. You know what I mean? There's
Hang on one second, I gotta pee.
Challenging.
Break.
All right, so am I going to talk by myself here? Am I going to just?
You can. Why don't you?
Is there someone here that we can enlist? Hang on. We got to get someone over here.
I think Paul's got. He's
right,
doing.
Well,
his
I will
thing,
pause the podcast then. All right, Chris, you feel any lighter now?
Way lighter. About I drank that 12-ouncer plus probably 10 of the other one.
Well, this is definitely the brews of BJJ and Brews.
Oh yeah.
So, tell me about a time that you were like, what was your favorite time? Like you recall, what was it like one stripe purple belt you was like, that was the best time you had doing jiu-jitsu? Like I
think honestly, and this sounds terrible, but like there was a time where I literally quit my job. I went to go work for Winter Springs to go help manage and basically operate that gym.
Yep.
Leading up to that was probably my best time of jiu-jitsu.
Leading up to that,
yeah.
So before you...
right before I decided to do that. That was sort of like...
I would think it would happen after, I'm going to be in there and I'm going to immerse myself in it.
I mean, just for... I don't think I had the best, as an instructor, it definitely allowed me to be the best instructor, and it definitely helped me sharpen my instructor skills in terms of having to develop a curriculum, being purposeful with my teaching.
So you were a head instructor?
We were co-instructors.
Gotcha.
John Sissio was the head instructor of the gym, co-owner of it, and I was basically just sort of like managing things and teaching a kickboxing class. We were both 4-stripe purple belts at the time. Leading up to that point was when I think I wanted to make the jump because I think I was performing the best.
Gotcha.
I was training very often. Stace and I were married and whatnot. Actually, we may not have been married yet. I don't even remember. But
You definitely didn't have a son.
We definitely didn't have a son.
Yeah.
But I was getting a lot of mat time in for kickboxing and jiu-jitsu.
So what belt rank were you?
I was like early purple belt.
Early purple belt.
Yeah.
So why was this so much fun for you?
I think because at that point I not mastered the basics, but like I had a good understanding of jiu-jitsu where I was able to quickly pick up everything that Jose was working on, implement it, and really just like roll without any pressure and just go to class, train, and just like be a student, right? I felt as though like you have to take the focus off of yourself the moment you become an instructor. And I seized the opportunity at that moment because like somebody had quit and blah, blah, blah. And I really wanted to hop into it because I was loving jiu-jitsu so much at that time. It's sort of like what John Danaher, I'm by no means comparing myself to John Danaher, but when you go from being a student and being able to develop yourself and putting the focus on yourself immediately to having responsibilities to paying students, there's something to that. Like you have to, at that point they're paying customers. The attention needs to be focused on them. You only have so many hours in a day, especially if you're married and et cetera, et cetera. But to try to have to step back and work on yourself, it's hard. So like that's why leading up to that was a really good time in my jiu-jitsu. Like basically 1, 2, and 3 stripes as a purple belt.
When you got your purple belt, did you feel like you deserved it, or did you feel like, oh shit?
No, I never deserve. Like, I don't think anybody ever feels like they deserve anything, or at least they shouldn't. Like that's the goal. I wasn't a part of. It was also like a time where I was just like the student who showed up a lot and trained a lot. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've always been a part of the gym, but I'm not like a fixture in the gym the way I've. At the time, I was working a lot. I was working like as much as I do now, but I wouldn't hang around as much. It was just a matter of like me, sort of being selfish, working, going to the gym, training, and going home, and that was it. Like I wasn't giving back as much to the gym as I should, or should have been, or whatever the case was. So in terms of like, I didn't even go to like fucking promotions or any of that sort of stuff. Like I was just like, training was for me and me only. It was maybe it was a little bit of an ego based thing.
But you're like, there's promotions in my gyms. Fuck that! I'm going to an open mat at another gym and getting my
or just I just don't care, right? Like sure. Like my it sounds like really shitty, but maybe my training partners were just a means to an end at that point, right? In my own development. I showed up. Actually, I didn't go to promotions. Like once, like I said, I try not to expect anything, so I didn't go. I came in the following like Monday or Tuesday, and Jose. I got changed and was a little bit late to class, and Jose stopped class and awarded me my purple belt, which was really cool. So I don't feel as though I deserved it, but obviously I did, according to Jose, which was cool.
Which is now verified on beltchecker.com.
It is verified on BeltChecker. So what are your thoughts on that right now, by the way? So like, you see they're offering.
I like how you're taking it off you. Like enough about me.
They're making. I'm just a dude who does jiu-jitsu, man. Like I don't like to. I try not to talk about myself.
No, but I'm trying to get a little sense because
it's
you're 15 years plus in, so your perspective's different. I'm just trying to.
I also have very different goals, right? Like, so Stacy asked me a while back, and this is when actually probably during like the purple belt times of jiu-jitsu. She was like, "Okay, so right now you have 2 massive loves in your life that are not me. One is comic books." Actually, yeah. She
really?
narrowed it down.
She said that comic books.
And mind you, it's pre-con, right? I was reading a lot more before then. I mean, like, if you ever see my 2 bookshelves, like, it's crazy how much I've actually read in terms of
I
comics.
kind of want to go over to your house now. I've never been over to your house.
No, you haven't.
I want to kind of.
I need to have everybody over for dinner at one point, but it just is.
No, you don't.
Bedtimes are
you
weird.
don't want that. You don't want that.
Bedtimes are hard. Not everybody. Not like Jamie and Daisy. God bless you for doing whatever, having us as like Emily's like trying to sleep. But
you're gonna have a UFC. You want to host UFC tonight?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, with 2 televisions and a surround sound. Like, oh, my kid's trying to sleep. It's a wonder that they're not sleeping right now. She's asked me. She's like, you know what? Like, what do you? She's like, if you had to give up either comic books or jiu-jitsu, what would you? Which one? Like, flat out. And I thought long and hard. I was like, man, like I don't know. Like, I had to sit back and think long and hard about like what am I getting out of each right now, right? I think my opinion's changed since then, but I said honestly, I think I might give up jiu-jitsu.
Really?
What are you guys talking about?
You were gonna give up
but now it's the opposite, right? Like, I've essentially given up comic books and have reduced my reading to next to none. In lieu of like, I need to make time for jiu-jitsu. And at that moment, I thought to myself, for me at that moment, jiu-jitsu was really a vehicle for fitness. And this is going back to me maybe being a little more selfish about my training. Jiu-jitsu is a bit more about my fitness and whatnot, and I can just replace that with like weightlifting, like CrossFit or whatever the case is, right? Obviously, that's a little bit different now. I'm super invested in jiu-jitsu. I think I probably have a much more enlightened view of the benefits to jiu-jitsu. What's that?
He is a black belt.
I am a black belt.
Maybe that's what Paul saw. He saw the flip switch. He's like, he's no longer invested in comic books.
Yeah,
he's
like
invested in jiu-jitsu now.
Maybe that is the
he
case.
deserves the black belt now.
And that's where I don't know. Like, it's definitely. You know what? Honestly, and maybe thank Connor for this. He was probably one of the biggest filters for. If something's not important to you, you'll find an excuse. If something is important to you, you find a way. Like, I made it an effort to find a way to get to jiu-jitsu, whether it's teaching, whether it's helping out to teach, whether it's like I had to find my mat time, come hell or high water to be on the mats after my son came.
Didn't you just have a physical like need for it? Because like I feel like just from an endorphin point of view, like the fact that jiu-jitsu is such a strenuous activity, not doing it, there's like a physical lack. Like I'm physically addicted to it.
So addiction is like one of those weird things, right? Like, just like, and I'm gonna alienate so many people here. The idea of something like anxiety or the idea of something like addiction, I'm not sure I know what it's like to be addicted to something. I mean, like, there are certain physical manifestations if I don't have my caffeine, where I literally like get a headache or I get sleepy. I think there's more an emotional response to me lacking jiu-jitsu, and Stacy notices this too, is if I don't get in the mat and maybe find a way to like let out my aggression or whatever the case is, then I am a little bit more like snappy. I am a little bit more aggressive. I don't know if it's necessarily like a physical need like you had just described.
Or a chemical.
I mean, like, I can't speak for that, like, and just like, maybe just kind of going back to what I said a second ago, like, I don't think I'll ever understand the idea of like something like lingering anxiety that prevents me from doing things. Just like I don't think I can understand like what it is to be truly addicted to something. Like, what is addiction by definition in terms of like people who say like, oh, like alcoholism, for example, the major difference between like somebody who just drinks a lot versus somebody who's an alcoholic is a certain predisposition with like, it preoccupies your mind that prevents you from doing other things, right?
Ooh, because when I was hiking out in Colorado, a lot of times when I'm on the trail in my own thoughts, I'm thinking about jiu-jitsu.
Are you? So you might be addicted to jiu-jitsu, right?
Yeah.
And at that point, I think myself too, I might be a little bit addicted to jiu-jitsu because I can't make it here. What was I doing for the past 3 or 4 days? I was watching UFC stuff. I was watching, like sort of things that would lend itself to the current curriculum we're doing. Is that to say that I might be addicted to jiu-jitsu? Maybe. I mean, but is there a physical or emotional manifestation of addiction? I can't speak for that. But so what were you thinking about as you're hiking? First off, were you hiking on your own?
I was hiking with my parents, but
With
a
your
lot
parents.
of times you're on your own because you're not hiking right next to someone, you know?
What were you thinking about?
I was visualizing entries into leg locks, and if I had inside or outside heel exposure, I was thinking about double. Hang on. Victor's like, wait a minute.
So this is what you fantasize in hikes? Fucking pussy ass leg entanglements.
Pussy. Whoa.
God damn it! Yes, I said it. God damn it, Noah. I want to
Are
hear
you saying leg locks
double
are
legs,
cheap,
guard
Victor?
passing. Oos.
Are you saying it's cheap to leg lock people?
I don't know. I'm saying it's boring.
Boring?
Yeah, I'm saying it's like I'm saying it's boring. You know, I feel like it's a lot cooler to just and I'm not saying they're not effective. They're absolutely effective. If you're competing, if you can go for a leg lock and that's the way to win, hell yeah, do it. But
What's your in your personal idea? What's your opinion of beautiful jiu-jitsu?
like a tough match where guys are going back and forth. But I feel like sometimes if you're and again, this is recreationally speaking, if you're in a competition and your way to win is just go for a leg lock because it's more efficient, hell yeah, do it, fine. But if I were to be if I'm like a person
around.
watching the sport of jiu-jitsu, I
Get
don't
your
want to
leg
see
through.
a guy just poke at your
Get your
legs
leg
and
through
sit
so I
with
can
it
get your
and
reverse
the match
triangle.
over. I don't want to see it. I want to see. Oh, it's Jared.
Sorry.
No, I want to see just a back and forth match. The guys are kind of standing up or going into guard or trying to pass or maybe attacking the leg for a sweep, but not like boop heel hook. I think that's boring. You know, that's my opinion.
So, but what's for you personally, not what you want to watch, but if you wanna say right now, Victor Padilla, what's my ideal like role and how I feel when I roll? What do you want to be doing?
I mean, I want to be scrambling. I want to be, trying to find a
Interesting.
superior
So that's-
position. I think, here's the thing. I think they're, like, being in a good leg lock position, it is a superior position, but it's not, I don't know, I just don't find
I don't know. It's pretty demoralizing. So, like, I base my jiu-jitsu on how demoralizing is it for the other person.
Yeah, that's the way to do it, but what's more demoralizing? That somebody is, like, attached to your leg or somebody's sternum's on your face?
Yeah, but, like, they're both equally fucking annoying. I can tell you that much.
I think it's more demoralizing to have somebody's sternum in my face than somebody attached to my legs, you know?
But if you want to do something and they're just attached to your legs and they're controlling your hips,
Yeah, because but
That's
if you,
really annoying
But if you
and
know how to
super
defend a
frustrating
heel
as
hook,
well.
if you know how to defend a heel hook, and the person is equally skilled at attacking heel hooks or leg locks, then the match just becomes in sitting in front of each other, and that's happening.
so you're
with
talking
Noah
about
and
like if you talk about like an EBI,
I don't really.
you don't watch
a lot of
EBI. So like that's a big part of EBI, right? Like it looks like this ridiculous game of footsies.
But it's not even that, because even and I will go as far as saying that even when both guys are actively hunting for the foot and they're just scrambling it back and forth everywhere, I think that's somehow entertaining. But what I'm saying is when the person falls and the other person's
that's
defending,
interesting.
and it's just kind of this like.
So what are
stalemate
your
of-
thoughts on the idea and of like attachment? So like I think a lot of times people will. I'm quick to let go, and maybe I'm not quick to try to force something long enough. Where does the beautiful jiu-jitsu come in? Because I think this can relate to what you're describing as a lot of like scrambles, a lot of, if you shoot for something, you commit to it, it's not that perfect ideal situation. You can't finish it. So you let go and you move on to something else because the person's obviously countering. I think that's generally what leads to a really good scrambling game of jiu-jitsu, right?
Yeah.
But then a lot of times you'll see there's a pressure game where they are isolating everything and they're usually generally able to finish. Like think of just Paul smashing you. Mm-hmm. But then there's the game where somebody's controlling you. It is pretty fucking demoralizing. They're not finishing you because they haven't sunk on the proper choke, the proper arm lock, whatever it is. But they just won't let go, even though they're not going to finish you, right?
Yeah.
Like, what are your thoughts on that? Because my gut reaction is, because how many times does this happen, right? Somebody's got you in a triangle or rear naked or a bow and arrow, whatever the case is. They're not finishing you.
And so that you're asking me if that's more demoralizing or less demoralizing than something?
No, I'm saying to me that's not beautiful jiu-jitsu.
I agree. To me,
that person should just let go, move on to something else. Obviously, it's not working.
And strategically, that's what you should do, right? Because if you, well, maybe not. Maybe if you're competing,
I don't know. Is it strategically what you should do? I mean, you are controlling the person. You've got their arms and limbs isolated.
If you're in a triangle or guillotine or something that you would hold, I think you're essentially getting tired.
I agree.
I know it's happening
and
to me.
I agree. And that's where I think that's not beautiful jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. So I think. And again, there's a difference between beautiful jiu-jitsu and jiu-jitsu that you use to compete. I mean, if you compete and then you have to find the most efficient and effective way to finish, that's kind of the point, right? But if you're looking for a fun thing to do, to watch if you're a spectator, I think beautiful jiu-jitsu is something that is very dynamic, something that is very moved, something. And if you're a more educated watcher, so if you're a black belt watching another competition, I think you want to see a lot of technique, but it's still maybe not a lot of like just schizos going around, but you want to see technique, not you don't want to see just stalemates, you know, like positional boredom. I don't know. It's weird. I don't know.
I saw a match. I don't know if you saw this one, Chris, between Bruno and Mikey, where they were just locked, and basically the Matt Drysdale was saying, "Oh, hang on, I've got Jerry's butt in my face here." Jerry's one of the official dogs of our gym.
The tribe dogs.
The tribe dog.
God, by the
dang
way,
it!
Official announcement. I don't know if you guys knew. Tribe Dogs has been disbanded indefinitely.
Really?
What? As the owner of that account, why has it been disbanded?
I just had to. I closed. You know how Instagram gives you the option of temporarily shutting down the account.
You can't stay active enough with it.
I can't stay active enough. Have so much shit to do, and
dude, take a picture of the dog.
I'm not
and
in the
post
greatest
it.
mood to do that right now.
That's
But
good that you're focusing on your priorities.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Thank you,
good.
Chris. So that's until further notice. Tribe Dogs has been disbanded.
You've heard it here first.
Not disbanded, just
on hiatus.
On hiatus.
Yeah,
sabbatical.
on hiatus.
It's on sabbatical. The highly popular account that's gotten likes from Mike Perry.
I've gotten
Give me the celebrity like.
Hold up, I know for a fact that like Ben Saunders comments a lot is weird, and then Mike
Does he
Perry
really?
has liked a couple of the pictures. And
Who has? Mike Perry?
Perry, yeah.
So this out of all the social media accounts, it gets the most attention from high-profile UFC fighters.
I wouldn't say that, but yeah. Kind of. But yeah, it's sad, but it has to happen. It just has to go.
All right, so there's this match between Bruno and Mikey where
Is it the one where Mikey won and Bruno?
I believe, but they're basically in a position where like, oh, Mikey's got the grips. All he has to do is sweep him whenever he wants, and they just sat there for like, kind of squirming and stuff, and then Mikey's like, all right, I have enough time to now sweep and then not get swept back. It wasn't like 50-50 where people were in 50-50 and like each person was standing up, but it was something similar to that, and it was just kind of like, well, wow, this is kind of like dull.
So that's okay. So is that a situation there where we have to take it out of the idea of a rule set because they were playing to the rules, right?
Yeah. I still want Victor to answer the question, like, what is his ideal jiu-jitsu? Like, you keep talking about, like... I already told you. No, but you're talking about as a spectator. Like, for you personally... I already told you. Like, do you want to smash people or you like scramble? You said you like scrambles.
Oh, yeah. So, well, my ideal jiu-jitsu, I don't want to... Like, I don't think is fantastic when I can just dominate the other person the whole time. I don't think that's cool. I think my ideal jiu-jitsu for me, a good role is... that we're both scrambling. You get me in some positions, I get you in some positions, and the skill level is equal in average, but greater than the other person's in some aspects, and so you can have a back and forth match that is fun. Those are the most satisfying roles, in my opinion. For me, when I go with somebody who I like a new blue belt, like one of these new blue belts, I don't really. It's not a fun match because I can do whatever I want, but it's not really a fun match. Versus if I go with somebody who's like you, or like, I don't know, Mike Sahibi, or somebody who's really like putting me in tough positions, but I know that I can also put them in tough positions, and it's just a back and forth struggle. Those are the most satisfying matches, because those are the ones that are going to give you work and are going to help you improve. And I think that's more fun than just kind of either smashing or just get completely smashed. Okay, so I understand what you're saying. I'm asking like. God damn it.
No,
I understand what Noah's saying.
What I'm asking is, Are you someone that would prefer to spend most of your time passing? Are you someone that wants to play more guard? Are you someone that wants to attack like the back take? Like for you, like if you're doing your thing, even though against a good guy, it's going to be tit for tat with people doing their thing. Are you going to be like, I want to be pressure passing. I want to be trying to go for their, like what is, because I was talking to Chris and my answer was kind of taking what the person gives me. Instead of saying, playing just single leg X or playing just De La Hiva, I would like to be in a position where for some reason I have that level where I can see that, oh, there's an opportunity to do lapel guard here. Oh, there's an opportunity to go to single leg X and just be opportunistic. And then that to me is cool because you're able to see stuff. So for you, what is it that you're trying to do when you're doing your thing?
I think that's pretty close, but I would take a more like I think I would like to be a more like active rather than reactive. Like it sounds like you want to take the opportunities and stuff, which is great. But what I would think my optimal jiu-jitsu would be to kind of do something and force whatever I'm doing into the person so that the outcome, like, I don't know how to explain it. Like so if you have 3 steps and the person only knows 2 steps and that third step is that what gets them, but you're always making the first.
You're initiating
the action that eventually is going to lead to whatever you want to do. And I don't know what that is because I don't think I've been doing this long enough to know what my game is.
So it almost sounds like you want to do chain wrestling, but in jiu-jitsu.
I wasn't very good at chain wrestling.
No, but my point is like chain wrestling where it's like the counter for the counter for the counter until it's like
a constant tit for tat
until
game. Yeah.
we get to a point where I know something and you don't know the counter.
Yeah, that's pretty close to what I would think my optimal jiu-jitsu is.
Okay, I can see that because you do a lot of like, if left to your own devices and you're not explicitly trying to train something, you're going to take top position and try to pass aggressively, and you're going to go side to side and try different things. And
yeah, that's pretty accurate what I was trying to do in my jiu-jitsu.
There we go. We got to the end 10 minutes later.
Dude, I do have to clarify your question because you told me what's your optimal jiu-jitsu. That's a broad thing, man.
That's a very broad question.
Chris understood me. But we've been doing this a lot longer. Chris, what's your ideal jiu-jitsu?
My ideal jiu-jitsu.
Scooting and using the least amount of energy possible.
Definitely the least amount of energy possible. That's.
I don't agree with that. I don't think that's cool.
I think it's also. I mean, so like.
I think you're lame, Chris. I'm just kidding.
I mean, like, jiu-jitsu is by definition up, using... okay. There's an SBG thing, and they talk about, like, what exactly is jiu-jitsu, right? And you should be able to do jiu-jitsu even when you're tired.
I agree with that.
Right? So if it requires a certain level of explosiveness or... strength, it still is a part of jiu-jitsu, but is it the essence of jiu-jitsu? Right?
What being able to do it without being tired?
Being able, because
even while tired is hard.
I mean, like I speak in absolutes often when I really shouldn't, but like jiu-jitsu shouldn't require strength to work properly.
I think it's a stretch.
Shouldn't.
Yes, because it's like Coach Paul always says, we're not playing chess. Well, we are playing human chess, but we're not playing literal chess. I mean, this is a physical sport. And Noah said this before.
I get that.
Strength, technique is always going to rule, but strength, fuck yeah, it matters. I mean,
of course I didn't say it didn't. I just said it.
But it says you said it shouldn't require.
But it's something that's I think we should strive to be able to do. Right? Is like Paul's understanding of jiu-jitsu and execution of jiu-jitsu is such that like he can toy with the 3 of us with zero, like little to no effort whatsoever, right? And in my opinion,
I disagree with that. Yeah, our egos disagree with that. We make him set a little bit.
It's a matter of like he can, because you talk about systems, and he's been around the game so long that he has a system for everything, and he has the perfect reaction to every situation that we can put him into. And there's something beautiful about that because he's not even breathing heavily when he's doing it, right? Like I think that's something that we should all strive to do.
I think you're rolling kind of lazy with him. I try to get him. I get him breathing pretty heavy.
Yeah, me too. I always try. We have this thing we say roll to impress. No, it's a funny thing. Like we had a, and when I go with him, I always try to go as hard as I can. Some days he feels like just completely smashing me and not giving me anything, and sometimes I feel like I don't know. I think the more I progress in jiu-jitsu, I think the more things I get to, open up with him and shit. So I think going as hard as you can is the best way to do it.
I think also,
Technically, of course. Technically.
Paul, I definitely know that Paul, there are times where he wants, like, if he wants to exercise, he's going to open things up.
Sure.
If he's dragging, he's like, sorry, I'm not letting you out. Like, if he gets to a good position, he's like, I'm not letting you out. I'm not feeling it. Like, I don't want to be scrambling. But other times he wants to get a sweat and he wants to sweat out the pizza from last night or something, So, I mean, he is determining that. But
on a side note, I think it's fucking awesome that you can determine that. I think it's fucking great.
But that's because he's like perfected his jiu-jitsu.
I think that's a great goal to have, like to be able to go with mostly whoever you want, and then be able to determine what you want to get out of the roll. Do you want to scramble or do you want to just kind of chill? I think that's great. I think that's awesome.
And that's the ideal jiu-jitsu though, right? Like because he's gotten his technique refined so well that given every opportunity, every opening, every door that seems shut, he's able to either create an opening or locate an opening.
But here's the thing: you create those openings with physical strength as well. I mean, if he goes with
right, but then that's not jiu-jitsu. That's fucking strength weightlifting.
I know, but no, I don't. I think that is jiu-jitsu. If he goes with Mike and Jovan, you're gonna have to put a little more effort into your techniques than if you're going with me. Like as far as if you're gonna lift him up from butterfly or whatever like that,
Yeah, when he elevates me, like, I mean, I know there's good leverage there, but I mean, he's tugging to pull me over him. Like, I mean, when he gets under me, he's under me. But when he wants to load me up, he gives a good ass tug. You know what I mean? Just
right,
like when
because that's okay. So like that's let's
there's
talk about
nothing, there's nothing technical about the tug per se. You know what I mean?
But there's something is technical about the tug because if he's tugging in the wrong direction,
oh, absolutely.
then obviously it's
but
not
he's not
an
applying
appropriate
minimal
response.
force on that tug. You know what I mean?
But
like,
sometimes, and that's maybe I'm oversimplifying the idea of minimal force.
We're not doing the Tai Chi where the guys.
No, I get that, right? Like it's not
stuff.
like what is it, Chi Sao or Chi Sao? Is that with like sticky hands? But like so, sometimes that is the technique, though, right? Like and actually, Dean Thomas told me this, and I still don't do it enough. Is I don't crossface people. It's just something I don't do.
You don't crossface people?
We've had this discussion, Victor. You haven't been involved. I don't do it because
God.
I think it's a dick thing to do, right? Like, no,
you taught us to crossface. You've taught a mount retention class where you were like, yeah, crossface them hard, and you were teaching that.
But that's just it because that's the technique. I don't do it a lot.
Wow,
that's dude.
Maybe am I being a hypocrite?
So do I have to like slap you when we're rolling? I want the full Chris, man. When we
no,
roll.
but that's just I don't like. For example, like, and the best example is this, right? Like, if somebody gets you like in a head and arm, like just traditional judo hold, not having the far side underhook, like a head and arm, like kind of schoolyard bully headlock. The defense to that is to make a frame, right? So they pull your frame into their own face every time they squeeze harder. That's the proper technique.
And you wouldn't do that.
I wouldn't do that for the longest time.
What?
Because I was like, man, like this.
You need to roll with Nick Paul more. You need to roll with Nick Paul for a year until you just like have to do that.
I just wouldn't do it. And then Dean told me, and this is when I was still a blue belt. He's like, but Chris, like, cross-facing is the technique to get out of that. Right?
And they're trying to hurt you either. You know what I mean?
They're trying to hurt you. And plus, like, you're not the one applying the force.
I think
they're applying the force themselves. All you're doing is making a frame.
Correct.
I
Right?
think Coach
So-
Paul even says this a lot. He's like, well, when he's doing neck grip or something, and he says something like, all right, so you just grab the pan, grab a little skin with him because they're trying to break your arm. Just
Who the hell says that?
Coach Paul says all the time.
Grab a little skin with him?
Yeah.
Oh
Say
my
that.
God.
Yeah, well, and that's like if you grab a grip and it doesn't
It's
matter.
like a sarcastic thing to say about what he's getting at is that
Make a good grip.
do this because they're trying to do that to you. Like they're trying to hurt you, so don't hurt them back per se, but don't be nice about escaping because they're trying to break your arm. And obviously it's sarcastic because we're all training partner to get together and to get better, not to see who's better.
I get that.
I guess my question is, because I will frame, like, I'm a fan of taking my fist and placing it on your jugular in your neck somewhere and pushing. If I did that to you, like people have CrossFit, everyone's done that. I don't know if I've CrossFit you, but I wouldn't think not to. When people have done those moves to you, how do you feel?
I don't like it. Right? Like, I mean, of course not. Right? Like,
I will say that is typically how Noah and I rounds escalate.
Is the first person who cross faces?
Yeah, but it's fun like that, because I know.
No, I get that, right?
It's
like,
not malicious.
It's
it's not malicious.
It's just the intensity's been.
Oh yeah.
It's the intensity and the intention of in which it's done, right? If it's, I don't know,
or if Coach Paul just starts making a comment to one of us.
What's Coach Paul?
We're just talking about, like,
asking how you're
the idea of, like, how I don't like to cross-face people, and because I'm a pussy grappler. But sometimes it is the technique. I get that, No,
but I can't believe that you don't crossfit. Like, that to me is so weird. Like, because that's my thing. It doesn't make you feel like when they do it to you, you're like, this is just part of jiu-jitsu. It's unpleasant, but it's part of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I mean, it's so, like, okay, so we have to, like, differentiate cross faces too, right? Like, there's, like, making a frame when somebody's, like, head and arming you. There's the cross face that you just described where, like, for mount retention, I think it's very necessary because they're trying to roll in the opposite direction. The only solution is to do that. Otherwise, you're going to get bucked and rolled over.
What about the mount we just did today? The kind of the leg weave mount where the guy's connecting his knee, his elbow and knee, and you're cross facing them open to mount technically, so they don't pull you into honey hole or anything like that, and they can't turtle.
I see, like, I'm not going to drive their chin the other direction.
What? How the fuck are you supposed to mount someone, dude? Like, Jesus. Hang on. We got to get a mic in this guy's head.
There's an obligation for the other person to just move their head. Like, if I'm going like this,
boom,
just move your head with it. Like, you don't, like, it'd be different if you were in a position where you couldn't move and I cross-faced you. That'd be different. That'd be me being a dick. But if you could literally just move your head while I'm trying to mount you, like, that's not,
And that's good jiu-jitsu on the other person's part too, right?
Invalid.
But that's good jiu-jitsu, right? Because, like,
I hear this all the time though. Like, with certain guys, it's like if they're choking, their chin's down. Like at a higher level, at a certain level, there is responsibility on the guy who's been training for 10 years to, like, lift his chin up if he doesn't like it. It's like a certain point, like, you're both kind of on the hook there. Now, if you've been training for a long time, the new guy, and he's chin's down, he doesn't know what's going on, you're squeezing it, maybe you're a dick. But if you've been training, you've both been training for 6, 7, 10 years. If Justin has my back and I keep my chin down, and he has a rear naked choke, and I don't lift my chin up, when he taps me out because I feel like my jaw's gonna break, I don't say, "Oh man, are you like what the fuck? I've been training for 10 years. I know exactly what you were doing. I could have easily picked my head up and let you choke me. I'm on the hook there too. It's not just him being a dick. It's like I could easily lift my chin up."
In conclusion, Chris, shut the fuck up.
No, I didn't say he does. He does. I didn't say he did that. Did yeah.
I'm saying I've seen people cross-face in places where it's like you're cross-facing for them to have pain, not necessarily for them to get a position, or like,
Yeah, and like the point I was making is, like, we were asking each other, like, what the ideal jiu-jitsu is, and my response was sometimes it's good
non-confrontational jiu-jitsu.
That's me and Tommy jiu-jitsu. But sometimes good jiu-jitsu also involves learning when to let go to move on to something else, right? Like, and that's my argument. It's like, if you're having to use force to try to force that choke, or the case is, like, to me, like, then work an armbar instead. Like, obviously the choke wasn't working for you, right?
Yeah, but if, just not to use Justin for an example, but if you, like, Justin's on my back, he has his hooks in, he has a seatbelt, he has his arms locked.
When would that even happen?
But my chin is down. Like, he should abandon that because I don't want to lift my chin up, like, because I want to be stubborn and keep my chin down. When I know exactly what's going to happen, like, what percentage of that falls on me? Like, that's what I.
So what if it's a bow and arrow and I've got the lapel across the guy's face? Is that on me or is that on the person who's?
Well,
I mean, you're never gonna finish that. I mean, right? Like,
that's different. You're not gonna finish it, but the rear naked choke can be finished with the chin down.
Exactly. Yeah. Like the chin lock, right? Like, and that's my
the mandible choke. JV lost his mind about this.
Justin and even Jason Patino he's been both those guys have been doing that shit for like a decade. I remember like Jason could choke you with your chin down, like he would do it all the time, and Justin definitely can, Justin,
because that's a valid technique, but trying to bow and arrow somebody with the fucking lapel across their mouth and like that's not a valid technique. You're not gonna submit anybody.
But okay, but wait a minute, but Ryan Martman would say, or Ryan LaFrance now would say that there's some pain compliance there. It's like if I can go with the lapel across that guy's nose hard enough,
agreed. But then
he's
going to
tap the pain.
And Paul uses this example, right? He says there's some people who can eat shoulder pressure all day. Like, does that mean you just need to keep grinding at it and try to finish him with it?
It's just the person eating the shoulder pressure decision to eat it.
I think it's also like how much I care about the other person.
and maybe that's it. And maybe I just care too much about everybody. I don't know, like.
Okay, I have a question. Give me a time. You don't have to name a person. I don't want you to name names here. But have you ever gotten pissed off at someone on the mat?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and
you can usually tell. You can usually tell too, like with me.
Okay, well, what happens and what happened in
I'll start. I won't like just traditionally. I mean, you know my guard passes. It's usually on the knees. It's usually slow and like incremental and whatever.
Oh, you're an old school passer. You pass on the knees.
Yeah, it's an old school thing. I've stopped doing it. Yeah,
well, I'm saying it's old school.
There's like, haven't you seen that BJJ Scout video of like how people think Val passes, and it shows like a dude doing gymnastics and like the fucking like thing, but it's like how he actually passes, and all he's doing is just like double unders. Yeah, and I mean, like, unless it's like that one video, it was like the fake black belt where he's like spinning on the guy's back. So it basically, like, right now, a lot of times in class, I'm trying to stand and pass and do that sort of thing, just because, like, I need to expand my game in jiu-jitsu. I spent fucking 10 years passing on my knees, right? I'm pretty good at getting my elbows underneath. I'm pretty good at getting a stack pass. I'm pretty good at, getting their nose to their knees, and if they fucking heavy leg, then I shoot the other direction and I can pass that way. If I'm doing that, then that chances are like you've done something to piss me off.
Oh, like, when you go to your old school age.
Yeah, like I'm gonna try to apply a little bit of pain and try to put your fucking knee through the back of your skull.
So what?
What
What did you do, Victor?
I don't know. I was just going
Have I done that to you?
Yeah, you done that to me.
Oh, jeez. I'm sorry if I have.
Yes.
That's probably just me trying to man my way through things.
More.
No, but like that, but like right now, like you can ask Paul. Like I used to never pass on my standing up. Like that's crazy.
But okay? But what triggers you then? Give me an example of something that triggers you. That causes you to do that.
I don't know, man. Like if it's, I think blatant disregard for me is a pretty big one.
Blatant disregard for you. I did that. I don't think I did that.
Stop making it about you, Victor.
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, like,
no, I'm not talking about a case with Victor, but just in general, you have to think of like a time you've gotten pissed.
If you what is my thing about grunting or snarling?
Yeah. If you're snarling to finish a submission, you're probably doing it wrong.
You're probably doing it wrong, right? Like if you're trying to snarl to finish something, and it takes like that's the ultimate of like, bro, just let it go and do something else. But I mean, like if you're doing to me what's dick move, then I'll probably try to turn it up a little bit.
Yeah, I think there are two types. There's like one is like I'm going with a new person and they're really rough. But I know they don't know any better, so they just need to be corralled.
Yeah, but no.
So I don't get angry at them. I'm like,
no,
okay,
you just blanket the fuck out of them,
yeah,
right?
it's like you're gonna get treated accordingly.
You now experienced the blanketing. How empowering was that for you?
It was.
How great did that make you feel? To be honest, I mean, I'm not a big ego guy.
I wouldn't. It didn't make me feel great. It was just. It was good knowing that. Okay, I have this under control. You know what I mean? Like controlling a crazy
jiu-jitsu though. You took zero effort, and he was trying to punch and everything. Like think of like a fucking wildebeest underneath the net when those like safari assholes.
Yeah, I mean he tapped with 1:30 left because he was exhausted.
Because he's and you're just going with it and whatever it is, and you're just blanking it, and you're countering every bullshit thing that he's trying to do.
Non-technical escape that he's doing.
Right, with the perfect angle, the perfect amount of pressure, and required no effort on your part.
It makes it sound good.
Right, like, isn't that the most beautiful jiu-jitsu?
I mean, that's one thing you're trying to do, because hopefully in the street you're dealing with an untrained person, and you can do the same thing to that, right? The ones that really irritate me is when I feel like I'm going with someone that knows jiu-jitsu to know. So let's say a colored belt or higher.
Sure.
And I feel like they're one of two things. They're overly obsessed with winning without being overly upfront with it. Like, hey man, I want to go hard, you know.
I mean,
and no one ever says that.
That's asking a lot for somebody to say that.
But the bigger one is when I feel like they've taken liberties with my body. So that usually happens with like hard crank. If someone starts cranking my neck, you know, and doing stuff like that, then I get annoyed. I'm like, okay, you're doing that to me now. It's more like prison rules, you know, and I get triggered, you know. Or the big one, another one which happens, which is usually the start of me getting angry. It's like, yeah, man, I just want to kind of flow, and then they fucking go hard right into your guard. So I'm like, okay, let's go easy, and I'm like, eh, and then bam, they go fucking hard. I'm like, motherfucker.
Okay,
you know what I mean? Like, here we go.
The perfect example for
Here's
me.
my question to you, Noah. What is the difference between going real hard and an annoying roll, like a schizo roll? If you're talking about like the same person, let's say you're going with the same person, and then how would you differentiate? Oh, that was a good competitive hard roll, and that was a fucking annoying schizo roll. How would you differentiate?
The absence of technique, because
No, I'm saying you're going to the same rank, same belt rank, same belt level.
Belt gets offended, you know,
No, but the
whenever
same
a
belt
lower
level.
rank, doesn't matter if they're using technique or not. If a lower rank goes hard with a higher rank, whether they're using technique or not, the higher rank gets upset. There's just something in their DNA.
Watch out. Oh.
and we're back. We just had
had
our cable disconnected by dogs.
malfunction here.
Oh, that was Leo?
Was it?
I thought it was Jerry.
The nicer one of all
He can't
things.
jump. His legs are fucking tiny. He can't jump too high.
Yeah, his legs are. He's got like corgi legs.
He does, and it's funny because I've seen him next to like a real beagle. He's like a beagle corgi mix. He's really cute. But when I see him next to a real beagle,
Does he have hip dysplasia?
no, it's just the way he walks. I know. It's
His
weird.
left hip, man, looks like.
I know. It's weird.
Is that a normal thing? For him?
No, yeah. I took him to the vet, and they told me that's just.
Is it really? Okay.
Yeah, I was like, what? It was weird.
So this is a really good distinguisher for you just described it, right? Like their disregard for the person's body.
Mm-hmm.
If you're having to wind up to do something and you're trying to almost like strike me, that to me is like, okay, it's go time, right? Like, and this applies to like a lot of different things. Like, if you're in my closed guard, I'm trying to work my closed guard, I'm trying to break your posture down, whatever it is, and you do this bullshit where I can see you literally wind up by pushing your fists in the air, pointing your elbows, and I can tell you're gonna like use that as like strength to grind out on my thigh. Like, I'm pretty pissed because like there are better ways that you can open my guard than
I remember one time, and Victor was even there. It's like I was going with Chihuahua, and Chihuahua, like, he flails his arms and legs around a lot, but he clipped me with his leg, and I was like, this motherfucker.
He flipped you with his leg?
No, he clipped me hard with his leg, and it just triggered me because it hit me right in the face, and I was like, this guy is technical, and he's just flailing his legs, and he hit me. And you know what? It really wasn't even the biggest grievance, and I clip people all the time, and people clip me all the time, but in that instance,
but what's your
I was
response to that immediately after you clip somebody?
Oh, I went full on prison rules with him.
After you clip somebody else by
And
accident.
we have the video. Like, I put my shin across his face. It was bad. Like, it was really bad.
And I
did everything but give him cauliflower ear. I was like, okay, I'm not going to give him cauliflower ear, but
Was this after his surgery for cauliflower ear?
yes.
Oh my god!
No, I was avoiding his ears, but I was.
You going to give him cauliflower chin? Maybe that's it. It's like when I can see you winding up or you're snarling or something, then like
Snarling's a good one.
snarling's a really good one. Yeah, like if you're snarling, like that's. I'm not gonna flow roll at that point. Like I'm gonna try a little more jiu-jitsu. I don't know, man. Like it's. I don't know how our conversation devolved into like what pisses us off.
Well, I think it's interesting. I mean, I think this sort of etiquette stuff always happens, you know. And what's like one of your funnier white belt stories?
As a white belt?
It could be as a white belt or with a white belt.
Oh my god. As a white belt. Oh my.
I'll give you two. It was actually the same individual, but I'm not going to name the name. So I was a white belt early on.
We can probably guess though, right?
You might not be able to because this person doesn't train here anymore. So I first week or so, paired up with another no stripe white belt, and we're rolling. We start in close guard.
Who's in close guard?
This person is my close
In your
guard,
close
so I'm
guard,
on bottom. So, try and get out of that. I'm trying to hold my positions. I'm just grabbing the collar, grabbing hands. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just trying to keep my legs tight. So this guy proceeds to sit back, start to stand up. I'm probably like a foot off the ground now, like lifted up. And then he just kind of drops me
Please let me
unceremoniously.
know to let go.
And no, it was a foot off the ground.
Okay.
So boom. He didn't slam me, but he didn't like lay me down. He kind of like dropped and fell into me. And I kind of did the look around like, huh? Figuring that this was not like allowed. He proceeds to do it 2 more times. So I get like half slammed. Like I'm going over stories like from my wife.
So
like,
that should have
okay. I get slammed. I get slammed 3 times.
Is it his fault?
No, it
is
wasn't
your fault?
Name. I didn't say your name.
At that fault, I would say it's.
And I
the
look
fault
around
of the
like I'm like this.
instructor.
Like I put my hands out. I'm like, what's going on here? Are slams allowed?
Who slammed you 3 times?
I'll tell you. I'll tell you off air.
But that's just it, right? Like so, like that to me is there's so many failed steps along the way that should have happened. Okay, let's look at rule sets then. Like slamming is not allowed in IBJJF.
No,
but slamming
the Globetrotters.
But slamming is allowed
that was a bad decision.
in Gracie Jiu-Jitsu tournaments
or fight to win,
right?
Yeah.
So
wrestling.
Just from a purely Jiu-Jitsu for self-defense standpoint, might you say that the slamming is allowed rule set produces better jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, but it's not. It doesn't produce day in and day out training. Just like jumping, doing jumping guard and doing flying arm bars.
What's the proper technique to somebody trying to slam you out?
Oh boy, I don't know how you practice slamming out of guard, but I would hope it involves like a crash pad. So like when people learn judo throws for the first time, they're doing it on a softer surface.
The solution is to let go.
Oh.
The person, and it's just speaking of the onus is on who?
Yeah.
The onus on the person who has the closed guard or the triangle locked on.
But now I'm going to say, I was like, this is my first week as a white belt.
And that's the problem, right? So, like, is it really that guy's fault, or is it ultimately the
everybody's
fault?
Well, it's probably
because these rules need to be
clearly articulated.
Yes.
Just like clipping your nails.
That's
washing your gi.
Like, hey,
and maybe wearing deodorant.
And that's one of those things, right? Like, you don't know what you don't know. So who's responsible for letting people know ultimately?
Oh, the instructor.
Yeah, that's so either way, did that anger you?
No, I was just kind of like perplexed.
You're like, what the hell?
Yeah, I was like, what's going on here?
That's it. And God forbid if you. Thankfully, he wasn't trying to slam his way out, right?
Well, I think he was.
He just wasn't strong enough to powerbomb you, basically.
Yeah, I think he's like, That's kind of what. The other funny story, I will name names because I like the guy, and I haven't seen him train here in a while. But do you remember Leo?
Leo?
Yeah, he had one amateur MMA fight.
Should I know Leo?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
am I being a terrible person if I don't know
you
Leo?
probably. I mean, you do know him. He real strong guy, strong upper body.
Leo
had 4 stripes on his white belt before we haven't seen it. Anyway, I rolled with him early on, and because this guy did MMA and Muay Thai, I was like, oh geez, this guy's intimidating. Guy's jacked and all this stuff. Anyway. I end up. This is early on. I end up on his back or something, and I somehow I think got an armbar attempt, and I thought it was tight, and he managed to squirm out of that. Then I got him in a cross choke, and I managed to get the tap before time expired, towards the end, and it was 10 seconds left, and when he's coming up, he's like, "Yeah, man, bro, I should have just gone to fucking to sleep, bro, I was looking at him what? He pulled a full Nick Diaz or Nate Diaz. He was full. He was he's an ultimate Diaz type guy, you know, like, yeah, man, I just gotta fucking go to sleep. Like, real men just go to sleep and stuff. And I was looking at him like mildly horrified, like, what the fuck? You know?
What a weird. So
Like he's all about don't tap. You know what I mean? You tough it out. Like I probably had his elbow. Like he's like, yeah, you got my elbow pretty good. You know, and I'm like, dude.
You just probably didn't. I mean, you didn't know how to finish it properly, right?
I probably made it very uncomfortable, but
Sure.
I didn't know. You know.
And that's one of those. It's what a weird. That is a pretty bizarre. See, like, so that's the thing is like, I'm glad that experience didn't teach you the solution to a deep sunken arm bar is to try to tough it out.
Oh, for me, if I'm caught in an arm,
Right, like I'm glad
yeah.
that didn't enculturate you to say like, hey, this is the appropriate response and how to train. and that's, and perhaps I'm too middle of the road. Like I'm too like take the safe road out, considering I'm doing jiu-jitsu, deadlifting,
Well,
and breaking my
I've
back.
always been pretty good. I think about. I'm not afraid or shy to ask questions.
No,
You know, so I'm not gonna just follow. I'm not gonna just look around and be like, do what they do. If I have any doubt or ambiguity, I'll go to Paul. I'll go to you. I'll go to an instructor.
An
and say,
instructor, right?
What's the protocol here? You know, what's the protocol? I remember asking Paul 3-4 times in the first month about tapping and what, you know, what's the ethic around it? What's the code around that? How does that work? You know, because I wasn't sure. And I also wasn't sure about the hierarchy of belts and how to navigate that in terms of who talks, you know, who can ask who, and how is it offensive for me to go for is it offensive for me to try and submit a upper belt, or can they submit me, like all this stuff, you know, because obviously I know that the likelihood of me getting a submission on upper belt is extremely low and their ability to submit me is very high. But is there an etiquette thing where it would be a personal affront? Oh, this peon is doing that, and to be honest, like they were experiencing capoeira that would suggest to me that stuff like that. You don't, even if you had a chance at doing something, you don't do it to a more tenured person because that's a disrespectful thing to do, and it's going to incur their wrath. You know,
and that's okay. So that's got to be some sort of weird male ego thing. Like this sort of like, you're dishonoring me. But I like to think as martial arts progresses beyond this sort of like overly traditional, you're disrespecting me thing, and becomes more of a pragmatic, we're learning from each other, we're all peers sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I like to think that sort of shit goes away. Right? Like, the idea that, oh, how dare you try this on me is absurd. Right? They should be allowed to try whatever they want.
I think
whether it works or not is another story.
The problem
right?
is, if people are under the impression that so-and-so is not going to do this to me because they're a lower belt, and then it happens and they get caught. It's like, it's one thing to... Because I think those people are almost eliminating the possibility. Like, think about leg locks. It's like, there are people, I know, I don't know them personally, but I know there will exist. I could go into a gym and attack a leg lock on a higher belt, and they would be shocked that I'd be doing that. And they wouldn't be prepared for that because they're assuming I wouldn't do that. Because the rule set's not laid out. If you said heel hooks aren't allowed, you would assume that no one's going to do that.
Right.
If you assume implicitly that a lower belt, this blue belt, they can't do heel hooks because that's not allowed, and then they go for it, part of the reason they succeeded is because the other person wasn't aware. Even though I do think the upper belt
should always be aware.
Correct.
I mean, like,
and that happened to me today.
Why you're an upper belt.
That happened to me today. Like, I'm rolling with someone, and I didn't explicitly say what's the rule set. You know, I'm rolling with that person, and then that person suddenly started attacking legs, and we end up at 50-50, and it appeared that they were going for a heel hook, an inside heel hook. So we were kind of there. I was like, so we're doing heel hooks? And the guy nodded. I was like, okay. You know, and JB did that with me once, even though I wasn't even attacking a heel hook, but I was in single leg X. I remember that. He was like, we're attacking, like, we're doing a foot locks? Like, yeah. And then he promptly tried to go for an estima lock because I was in reverse Telehiva.
So that's an interesting thing, right? Like... And that's where, like, I not to get super conservative again about jiu-jitsu and the idea of jiu-jitsu for fighting.
My class, my rules, guys. No twisting foot locks.
But that's okay. So first off, that's just purely for my own, like, safety, or not my own safety, but my own, like, peace of mind. But, like, there's you ever follow Kama Jiu-Jitsu?
I'm aware of it.
Okay, so Kama Jiu-Jitsu, his instructor is one of the Dirty Dozen. He's one of the first black
Oh,
belts.
I'm sorry. When you said combat jiu-jitsu, I thought the rule
I'm
set
sorry,
was Eddie.
Kama, Kama Jiu-Jitsu.
Oh no, I'm not familiar with
So,
that.
like, Dave Kama got his black belt from Hickson Gracie, and one of his students now, he's an affiliate of Kama Jiu-Jitsu. And they talk about, like, the idea of just going back to, like, slams out of submissions, for example. Like, you should always sort of be... You can't blame the other person for trying to attack you a certain way, right? Like, because that's all they know, or that's all they're thinking of, and that's all they're trying to do. All you can do is the onus is on you to either react or respond to what they're doing, right? And to always try to assume, without clear rules being laid out ahead of time, that somebody's not going to try something, then shame on you, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that. And like I said, I think you should always be prepared to protect yourself from all things.
Absolutely.
Especially if there was no explicit, like,
especially if there's no
if
and
you're
that's
not
where,
laying
like,
things
somebody's
out.
grabbing your foot, fucking.
What was weird is when I went to the Globetrotters camp in Iceland. Not weird, but was unusual for me is anytime there's no gi rolling, the implicit understanding was footlocks were fucking fair game, man.
Right.
You know, and
Because it's the game of no.
and I guess that's because that's in style and in vogue with no
But
gi.
how long before then do you think we get away from the idea that footlocks, for example, are
evil?
evil? Exactly.
I think over time they will. I think once people realize that, hey, if you learn how to defend them, they're just like anything else. It's a familiarity thing. It's a margin for error thing. It's like the margin for error is very small, and the consequences are extremely devastating, especially when we're talking about inside heel hooks.
Yes.
You know, and that's the problem, you know? I mean, I'll be honest, I'm fucking scared to death whenever not scared to death, but you get the idea. When Paul demos Kimura's on me, you know what I mean? Like, he's a centimeter away from ripping my shit. You know what I mean?
But he also has the sensitivity.
He knows, obviously, and I trust him wholeheartedly. But the point is, it's like my shoulder can be seriously damaged from that
and it's
too,
because it's so tight.
But for whatever reason, we don't see Kimura's as dangerous as an inside heel hook, and I think maybe that's a combination of the overall ignorance that people have about the move.
Yes,
and also the fact that there's little to no pain associated with the application of it, like, before there's catastrophic injury.
We definitely have more sensitivity in our upper bodies.
Yeah, we're like, and then
pop. I mean, you know when something feels off.
Yeah,
with your upper body.
And with a heel hook, you just feel pressure generally.
And people, okay, so that's the thing too. Like, so we use the term heel hook. People, I don't know how many times now we've talked about, or in a leg lock class, that people don't even realize the heel's not the thing in danger.
Correct.
Right? Like, the knee is in danger.
Correct.
And people...
We need to call them knee rippers.
Yeah, like, or what was my term? Knee destroy... I forgot what it was. Like...
knee apocalypse.
Yeah, like, you know, people don't realize... And perhaps this is maybe a part of the fundamental movement beginner class, novice, day one class that people need to take to learn proper mechanics is also anatomy.
Yeah.
Because people, like, think about when you first started weightlifting and as you become a more experienced weightlifter, how many people go to the gym every single day, do movements, lat pull downs, whatever it is, and literally don't even know what muscle they're supposed to be training? Hey,
but it was in Muscle Fitness. It was in Men's Health, man.
I mean, like, how often does that really happen, right? Like, so people have a basic, if even that, level of understanding of how their body is supposed to move, if you don't even understand that, how are you supposed to even understand how your body's not supposed to
Well,
move?
this comes full circle because at the very beginning we were talking about body awareness.
Yeah.
And people with good body awareness are probably better than people that don't in jiu-jitsu, but certainly they are safer training partners
Yes.
because they're aware of what can hurt them and their partner. And people that don't have body awareness, not for anything other than ignorance. It's not malice. It's not cruelty. It's not like wanting to win. It's just they don't know that things are in jeopardy. When I'm,
Sure.
and that comes down to you being a conscientious drilling partner and checking your ego at the door and releasing a hold. If you feel someone twisting the wrong way and you're anchoring that joint that's going to get ripped because they're turning, you release, or if someone's reaping your leg, to go with it. Or if I'm reaping someone's leg, I'm doing it in a way where I'm not violent with it. I'm kind of gradually easing into it. Like that happened in a roll with a black belt even recently. And I ended up reaping, not intentionally, but I ended up reaping. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go with the reap.
Right.
But I'm just going to gradually reap. I'm going to gradually turn.
So
we're going to slow down. We're going to take the corner. It's like we're at the Indy 500 and we're slowing down to take a corner. Like, let's just slow down here and just kind of finish the reap and then get back into what we were doing,
So you were actually in the class that, Paul did like a mini seminar a couple of years ago at this point, I think, is the Jitsu hits, right? Like
yeah.
The
self-defense seminar.
The self-defense guard, right?
Exactly.
And like he showed one of the defenses off of, I think a nice solid spider guard is a fully committed De La Hiva, right?
Yes.
Where you just dive deep, you go for broke, right? Like, and it forces the person to react a certain way.
It also tweaks your knee.
It also tweaks your knee, right? So that's the thing is like, it's interesting that
although I'm starting to do, I never played an actual De La Hiva hook. Now I'm starting to, but I'm only doing it when I'm almost like, they almost have back exposure.
Right. So you just use it as an anchor to be able to like shift your hips around.
Yeah.
So like, that's the thing, right? Like, like where did we start developing the sort of like, take the corner, ease around the corner slowly for something even as simple as De La Hiva? You know who doesn't do that and they commit well and they execute well is Nicky.
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Like when he dives for his De La Hiva, he has very little regard to for your knee and he just fucking goes for it.
Yeah, but I think that's a pretty safe thing. To what he's doing is safe because he's no longer going to my knee. He's going to
your far hip.
He's
right?
going to my far hip.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
he's not tweaking my knee.
But like there's, to
me, the riskier stuff is when someone's got you in like a coyote half guard. You know what I mean? Like, well, you know that.
Oh, I definitely know that.
Or any sort of, kind of 10th Planet mojo where you've got lockdown or hooks like that. You're like,
but that's the thing is,
or when you're flaring your knee. That's the other big one. That's how Gordon Ryan fucked up his knee. You flare your knee outwards, you're putting a lot of pressure on the outside of your knee.
No. He got you talking about like.
He was trying to elevate a guy into butterfly guard, and
by trying to flare it coming from a wrong angle, basically.
Yeah, but he was flaring his knee. Like his knee was not in alignment with his ankle and his hip.
Yeah.
It was out, and the more you flare it, just like if I'm basically an open guard looking up, and I grab one of my feet and I pull my feet to my chest, my knee starts flaring outward. When someone's putting pressure on that, and you actually fight back. You're putting immense pressure on the outside of your knee. So when I feel like something like that happens, which I think in general people feel like that's something that's like something's a little off. Like I want to be in alignment. Like, but still, you don't necessarily think you're risking catastrophic knee tears.
Right. And well, that's the thing is like, from my understanding, it's actually similar to the position that Paul was working today, and he talks about how you can, take the honey hole off of somebody trying to smash you to dope mount. From my understanding, the reason why that was happening to Gordon Ryan, well, that's exactly it. It's because their hips are on top of his ankle and shin, and he's trying to flare his knee out to create that little bit of space to be able to slip his bottom leg under to get the elevation needed for honey hole. Are you talking about the video? You're talking about the video that Lachlan does the breakdown of like
Absolutely.
that video, right?
Yeah.
Like, Whereas like if you keep a high knee, essentially like a reverse Z guard, then that sort of like prevents that from happening altogether. But yeah, so and that's an awareness of yourself, knowing your own limits, right? Like
Correct.
obviously in this case he didn't know, where he tore his own knee out, and that's also from the perspective of the training partner in a training scenario, not competitive, is being aware that, hey man, like I know, well, you haven't rolled with me a lot lately, but like how many times do you hear me when I'm trying to do something ask somebody, hey, is your knee okay?
Oh yeah.
You probably hear it all the time whenever I'm rolling with somebody, right? Like it's if you're next to me, like you'll probably hear that 3 or 4 times when I'm trying
Well,
to.
you know, the other one I'm now scared of, not scared of, but I'm very conscientious of doing, and I try not to do it, but sometimes if the person really give me that opportunity, I might do it, but I'll say watch your knees when I do it, is if they're turtled and I want to grab them by the collar and pull them straight back.
Yeah. And then I just break them down to the side.
You know, I'm like, hey, just kind of watch your knees here, and I just kind of pull back. I don't violently yank them.
No,
you know,
dude.
I just kind of pull.
I'll yank it to the side just because, like, it allows you to get your knee a little bit easier too. You know, like where you can get that bottom hook in. So body awareness, guys. I would say honestly beyond body awareness. How about just overall awareness? Because just to wrap it up a little bit.
How about not look down at your phone when crossing a crosswalk?
Right, like overall awareness, right? Like, and I know it's easy to get caught up in the moment, speaking of like living in the moment doing jiu-jitsu, and that's the true state of Zen and whatnot. But like, I don't know how many times today, because I am injured, I wasn't able to roll. I'm like supervising the class.
Oh yeah, how many
near collisions did I have to avoid?
How much chaos did you witness?
A lot that I had to, you know, step in between the people, actually stop both warring pairs and like, hey, just turn your heads this way. You know, like that sort of thing. Like it happens.
Isn't it weird, especially in fundamentals, just looking around? I mean, you've done it way more than me, but for me, I still am shocked. I look around, I'm like, Jesus. Dude, there was an instance of a guy getting knee barred in a white belt class, okay? Shouldn't be getting knee barred.
Right.
Okay? Dude, he got so pissed that he fucking blast doubled the guy almost through the window. I'm like, whoa.
That should have never gotten to that point. There's so many sequences that had to happen for it to get to that point.
But, you know, you got a white belt that's been training for 4 years that's here, and it's like, well, and he doesn't have any things on his belt, but he's technically, I mean, he's like Chihuahua. It's like, the guy should be a blue belt, but, or at least he knows a lot, you know. And but why is he going for a knee bar? Because then I'm asking him, like, you know, and the white belt's like, well, you know, what happened? Because he's pissed. I'm like, what happened? He's like, he did something with my foot. He did something with my leg. And I'm like, okay, afterwards you got to show me what he did. So then I showed him, like, did he do this? No. Did he do this? No. And I was like, did he do this? He's like, yeah, I think he did this. You know, like they don't even know what it is. You know.
But is that a reason? Because they don't know what it is. To me, I mean, like...
And then he fucking I mean, it was...
But, like, that's just it. Like, is the response to do that? Or is the response to, like, learn where you fucked up? And like, don't let it happen again.
We're hot-blooded, red-blooded men.
I guess so, man. Like, that toxic environment.
And nobody's girlfriend was watching either.
Oh,
like,
really?
Fucking Troy, man. Dude, he brought his wife.
99.9% trash, Sahibi.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Shout out to Sahibi and Troy. I still want to understand what the...
I don't know what's happening.
I mean, it's a friendly beef.
Oh, it's hilarious.
Absolutely.
It's one of the funniest things.
It's a friendly, funny beef. But how that originated, where it originated from, I have no idea. But I need to find that out. Dude, we've gone over 2 hours. I hope you're back heels.
I hope so, too.
You know, Bengay.
Steve actually offered a... Tiger Bomb.
Oh, Tiger Bomb.
I'm Asian, right?
Okay, I was gonna say, yeah. What's your cream of choice?
The dark red one.
The dark red one. Chris, until next time. Thanks, man.
Yeah, man. I'll see you on Tuesday.